Here we go. Thursday night. It's going to be a great show tonight. You know, shout out to the great guys that are here on the panel with me right now. The great D-Batch and WoolleyGamer. Hopefully Nib and DS will be joining us shortly. I do have Jez 7780 joining us the second hour. And also, David Faulkner is going to be dropping by and talking a little bit about the business end of the things going on over there at PlayStation Studios. Guys, usually we start the show and we're like, hey, it's going to be great, right? But, you know, we got some sad news today, right? Studio closure. We'll talk a little bit about how that kind of went down, what our opinions are on it. And, you know, hopefully a lot of these devs are being interviewed or being placed in other areas within Sony's PlayStation Studios. We'll talk a little bit about that as we kind of get into it as well. Please take a second, guys. Hit that like button. If you don't mind hitting that subscribe button, your name comes up in lights. Look at that outstanding description right there. Right above that's the join button. I saw the great Anonymous. Shout out to Anonymous Boss Gaming for not only joining the Mooch Maniac family members, but also becoming a major Mooch Maniac. And I believe he's gifting people even memberships. This guy is unbelievably great. So shout out to Anonymous. I appreciate that. Guys, again, we do have more and more people joining us as the hours go on, but we have a lot to discuss. There's a lot of news here. I saw, before the news that broke today, okay, a lot of RDNA talk about PS6 and what's going on. There's a lot of back and forth in the industry. I said, wait a minute. Let me do the math here real quick. RDNA, we're talking PlayStation, we're talking what's going on. Oh, that's right. D, the tech guy, is the guy I got to get back on here. The great D-Batch is with us. D, great to have you back on the show, buddy. How you doing tonight?
I'm good, man, and I'm frothing at the mouth. I've been on a tangent for the last 3 days on X, just correcting the disinformation that's out there. It's unbelievable. You know, I talked to engineers behind the scenes, and they gave me like the full, complete breakdown.
All right,
where you can't even dispute it. I tweet that out. I don't know if you pull up tweets on your show or stuff, but. I
don't, but by all means, please pull yours up and read them, because honestly, if you got data, we want to hear it, D. But, you know, we're going to go right to you first and put you in the hot seat. But first, I want to welcome the great WoolleyGamer back to the show. Woolley reaches out to me. He goes, Mooch, I'm seeing what's going on with this Bluepoint Games. I've got to talk about it. It's absolutely destroyed me. I've got to get it. And when Woolley gets this interested and this sentimental about it, I got to have him on the show. So the great WoolleyGamer is joining us back again. Woolley, great to have you, buddy. How you doing tonight?
Always good to be here, Mooch. And thanks for having me on. Yeah, just angry, mate. Angry, disappointed. A little
rightfully so. Yeah,
and very, very, very salty. You know, I guess I'm going over to Xbox. It seems. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm just frustrated, mate, that so many blunders could happen in such. All over a stupid freaking vision that has been so inordinately expensive, you know, in the pursuit of lightning in a bottle, that they're literally closing the creme de la creme of their studios. Like, Bluepoint is the love child of PlayStation. I swear, it's like the one that everybody rates. It's the one that everybody loves. It's the, you know, it ain't the ginger cousin. It's the absolute, you know, it's the blonde hair, blue-eyed, you know, angelic, you know, little cherub that all the mums dote over and all the dads dote over at the family get together. They all love Bluepoint, you know, and for Sony just to shut them down, you know, there are reasons. I think that, you know, ultimately, you know, David Faulkner will bring a lot of that context in if and when he makes it. There are more reasons, but, you know, than the current trending idea, which isn't wrong in itself as well, that, you know, Sony set them up to fail, which they kind of did. You know, they forced them onto a live service bandwagon, which and they ended up U-turning on and shutting down that project. Yeah. And then was like, okay, now you got to come up with something fast. And it was barely mid-development. And usually a studio during not even at mid-development, it's usually like early mid-development to mid-development. They start getting a team together to come up with the next project. They start throwing out ideas in a boardroom, and they start coming up with a vision, and then they're in pre-development of the next title whilst they're still making the current game. But Bluepoint didn't have that. They didn't have that time to do that. They literally had everything pulled from under their feet, and then looked at and glared at for 18 months. Oh, what are you coming up with? Oh, that's not going to work, because they had to just pull rabbits out of hats. Now, in fact, they failed in that. They failed in doing that. I feel like,
Willie, no, I think you're making some really good points, and actually you're getting the audience to think about it for a second. I would say take a couple notes on that. I do want to get into that's going to be our second subject, and I think you've actually nailed a couple of really big topics on that. I did want to. We only have D. We only have D for an hour, so I wanted to get the RDNA stuff. At least covered before we. Listen, I try to kidnap D for at least 2 hours. Like, guys, you don't realize how hard it is to get D on the show. You have no idea. D, I love having you here. Listen, let's talk about, because Willie, I really do want to get the Bluepoint. I think even D, you would want to talk a little bit about Bluepoint too. But when it comes down to it, D, maybe you can help just shine a little bit of light, and you don't have to spend a half an hour on it. But I mean, really, PlayStation 6, they were talking not going to be full RDNA5. My question is this. What does that bring to the table, first and foremost? Second of all, if it's not full RDNA5, what is it supposed to be? And why would a PlayStation 5 owner care whether or not it's the full boat or it's not, or it's, what is going on with all of this difference of opinion that we're seeing on all these different tech channels?
Okay, so honest to tell you, it comes down to not fundamentally understanding the AMD architecture. That's really what it boils down to, because I'll be honest, on this deep dive that I did, I found out things that I didn't know. And I'm going to share it with you guys today, and you guys are going to be shocked because you didn't know either.
Right. This is true.
So this all started for me. I think it was like Sunday. Kepler L2 was, I don't know if it was Reset Era or wherever, one of those forums. And he posted that the PlayStation 5, he was commenting on somebody saying that the PlayStation 5 is not full RDNA, that it's not RDNA 2, and he goes, yeah, it's not RDNA 2, it's just RDNA 1 plus ray tracing. And then he said afterwards, and the PlayStation 6 isn't full RDNA 5 either. And everything just started to go crazy.
Right, started spinning out. Yeah.
The Xbox fans are coming out the woods. I saw post. See, I told you guys, it's not RDNA 1, it's not RDNA 2, it's RDNA 1, and all this stuff.
Oh, that all started again, yeah.
So first, let's just go with common sense. AMD has explicitly come out, tweeted that it's RDNA 2. At their presentation for the consoles, like at their own unveiling of RDNA 2, they revealed that the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S are RDNA 2. We have Mark Cerny coming out on the road to PlayStation 5 saying that they built the PlayStation 5 around RDNA 2. Now, common sense. AMD is a publicly traded company.
That's right.
She didn't just say on X that it was RDNA 2. She also said it at AMD presentations. She also said it on the earnings calls. Now, if you know anything about security and frauds within. Number two, if the PlayStation 5 was RDNA 1, how the hell is it beating it in many titles or some titles, the Xbox Series X, or being par for features, on performance on other titles if it's RDNA 1? That wouldn't make sense either. So let's address that claim first. So I reached out to Leviathan the Gamer. Shout out to Leviathan the Gamer.
Yes, he's a legend. Love that guy.
Really, really smart engineer. He knows like all of the code.
Yeah, shout out to Leviathan. Yes,
of NVIDIA, of AMD, just well-versed guy. And although he gives me really good, credible information that I can use as ammo, he's a guy that's just neutral. He's just about the technology. He's just about, what these things do. Now, he DM'd me and he said the reason why Kepler said that it's RDNA 1 is because on the driver's side, now I'm reading this verbatim, because on the driver's side, they treat it as an RDNA 1 GPU mostly. And how the drivers work is that they split major architectural revisions as whole numbers. For example, GFX 12 is RDNA 4. GFX 11 is RDNA 3, GFX 10 is both RDNA 1 and 2, GFX 9 is Vega, GFX stretches Radeon 3000 series, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Now he goes, minor revisions might get decimal points. For example, RDNA 3.5 is graphics 11.5, so RDNA 1 is graphics 10.1. PS5 is GFX 10.13. Series X is GFX 10.2. RDNA 2 is GFX 10.3. So without me getting into all of the details here, basically, it's based off RDNA 2, but they didn't use all of the features that are in RDNA 2. They chose what features they wanted to use, what was best for their their operating system, what they were going to do programming wise on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox. They chose features that would suit them as well, and DX12. Now, based off of this new information, for all the people out there saying that the PlayStation 5 is not full RDNA 2, if we go on such a claim, the Xbox Series X is not full RDNA 2 either, because it's missing a lot of the features that are on PC. Now, the way that he broke it down to me, and he, in the thread there, he was very detailed, is basically there's no such thing as full RDNA 2. There's just RDNA 2, and there's the features, and you can customize which features you want within RDNA 2. He said basically RDNA 1 to RDNA 2, there wasn't much changes that were made. They were basically just bug fixes, and they added ray tracing. So, both of these consoles are based on RDNA 2. And if we go even further back, without trying to make this so long-winded, AMD actually helped design RDNA 2. Now, if you go way back to Mark Cerny, he made some comments. He said, if you see a similar graphics card come out from AMD around the same time the PlayStation 5 comes out, then you know that we helped create RDNA.
That's the Oberon. Oberon GPU.
Yeah, so they actually helped create RDNA 2. So throw all that nonsense out the garbage.
Right.
Fast forward to now, RDNA 5. Now, RDNA 5, it's official. It's an early fork of GFX 13, which is RDNA 5. Now, whether or not they're going to use all of the feature sets within RDNA 5, I don't know. Probably not. They're probably going to customize it. But they're also going to have features on there that are not going to be on RDNA 5 because they are doing the collaboration with AMD.
That's right. I was just going to bring that up. Yes.
And the changes that come out of Project Amethyst are going to be exclusively on the PlayStation 6 at first. AMD has said, and Sony as well, that it will make its way over to the RDNA GPUs. So yes. I would expect some of these changes to be on RDNA 5 and some of them not to be on RDNA 5, some of them to be on RDNA 6, or when they do like a refresh a year later.
So D, let me ask you a question. D, let me ask you a question though. One of the big things that we're hearing with the rumors of the PS6 is Sony's trying to put as much in the box and keep the price as low as possible, right? That's the one thing they're really trying to do. Shout out again to Moore's Law is Dead. I think he's reported on that ages ago. Well, at least I saw the clip anyways going around with that. If that's the case, right, does the RDNA 5 and the work that they've been doing, Sony, with AMD, these things still cost an absolute ton of money in R&D, right, D? So if all this money goes into this, you have to recoup that on the back end, it always falls to the customer. So at the end of the day, if all of this technology that they're saying, I'm sitting there thinking, they're able to use PSSR 2.0 and a couple of other things to really kind of, some small bits of hardware, software related, to be able to get more power, more frames, better looking games, using software mainly, and not have to put that hardware in the box. The thing about it, when it comes down to it, with RDNA 5, okay, that's the rumor that's going to be in the PS6. Whether, like you said, whether they use all of it or some of it, but isn't that still going to be quite costly when it comes down to it at the end of the day? Well, I mean, how is that saving the customer money? I mean, this box is is the PS6 going to be $700? Is it going to be $800? Is it going to be a staggering $900? I mean, where are we with this?
Well, they're on a die shrink, so I believe it's 3 nanometers. So the costs are going to come down a little bit there. Also, the R&D now, the research and development that they're doing, I'm pretty sure they're going to be sharing that with AMD, because these improvements are also going to go into RDNA 5 and beyond GPUs from AMD, right? So this is a collaboration. So I'm sure they're going to work out some type of deal where, they're going to see their efforts pay off in the prices that they get for the hardware. Like,
what I
I'm
find
not 100%
interesting,
sure, but just common sense would tell you that, right?
yes, I get. So the great David Faulkner's joined us. David, for all of us, it's very late at night. For you, it's lunchtime.
Yeah.
Which is,
don't worry, it's still just as crazy in tomorrow as it was today.
I keep telling David, send me the 6 winning lotto numbers. But here's the thing. David's already in tomorrow, the great Australian time zone. David, we were just talking about money and finances on that end, and I don't mean to put you on the hot seat because you can very easily say, Mooch, that's just not my expertise right there. But I mean, have you heard anything about what Dee was just saying, how AMD, Sony kind of splitting that? Because one of the main goals for the PS6 is PlayStation knows that Xbox is going to have this hybrid. Now, we don't know the price of it, but rumors are anywhere from, I've heard things from $1,200 to $2,000. You guys play with the numbers as you want there. PlayStation really has to keep this thing without a comma, right? It's got to be, probably even under $900. I know. Listen,
it's gonna be about 900.
900 may be the asking price. I mean, I don't really know. David, what do you think when you think about, maybe not, if you know more about the software side and what we're talking about, please chime in. If not, just from the business end of things, David, are they going to be able to keep this thing under $1,000?
Well, yeah. There's a couple of benefits that PlayStation's got in this whole development cycle that a lot of people aren't. Oh, it's not really publicly known. It's public information, but it's not discussed much.
Mm-hmm.
So the AMD chipsets are all based off TSMC production runs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sony's now got 2 massive manufacturing plants built in Japan that are TSMC joint ventured to be able to produce these chips. So a lot of that is not.
Yeah, they did that, and they did that after the pandemic. They announced their chip factory that they didn't want to run into the same situation they did with the PS5.
They just announced a new. It's either an expansion of a current one, or they just bought a new, like a previously existing facility to do the 3 nanometer and 5 nanometer chipsets that feed into this AMD stuff for the GPUs and CPUs. So they've invested heavily in owning part of the production. It's part of the reason why they're divesting the spinning off the TV and displays out into that joint venture with TCL. They already subcontract most of their display stuff out with TCL anyway.
Yep.
So it just makes sense to divest. Like, this is like, I don't know, late 90s, early 2000s when businesses had gone through a massive amount of consolidation in the mid to late 90s through all that growth. And in the early 2000s started to divest and split off and fracture things out. It's just part of the cycle, and we're on the back end of that. So had the big consolidation and investment, then they go through a contraction, and then they, all the layoffs and the shutdowns and all that, and then the next thing is divestment. So Sony's resetting or restructuring, as they've done in the past. They do a cyclical thing every 7-8 years. So they're divesting the TV and the display bits and pieces through a joint venture output to minimize the cost there. So they're not a customer as such, but they're owning part of that manufacturing process. That cuts down on cost because they're not paying a margin to the middleman. Same thing with the chip manufacturing. They've invested heavily in these massive production facilities so that they can be part of the supply line for that. And Sony's done this with many things in the past. They've got a history of doing this with their electronic
cooling as well.
Gadgets.
Cooling as well. They've massively overhauled the cooling
that's right.
system as well in architecture, haven't they?
Yep. Absolutely. And then
saving all that copper.
Oh, for sure. And moving back away from the liquid metal cooling system into a non-liquid state has a big impact on that. And being able to get better functionality, the power saving mode that they're working on, that has a direct and massive impact on the cooling functionality requirements. So they're thinking outside the box on a few things, and it's not Sony. Sony does what Sony does. Is they're not the pioneer on a lot of stuff. They will take it and perfect it, or they'll take it as close to perfection as they can. Somebody else's idea. That's their business model. Let's not joke around here. Sony is not a pioneer. Sony is a perfecter, and it's worked well for them. And people can say, "Oh, they're not the first to do this." Everyone's aware that Sony doesn't do things first. But D was very much on the money when talking about, the RDNA2 pieces and the inputs and all the rest of it. What Sony has as a benefit in that aspect is where they're located. Japan, they have a cash rebate for R&D write-offs. It's not you just reduce your taxable income and carry your losses forward. They actually give money back to the companies for their R&D investment. And it's, depending on what you're doing, it's between 33 and 48%. So if you've got all this investment going through for things that are, they're not pure, like, and again, you'll have to correct me if I'm using the incorrect terminology, but the RDNA is like a framework, and Sony and AMD are working on something specifically built within that framework, which would qualify for the R&D offsets and paybacks. So where Microsoft doesn't get that benefit because they've got a totally different process in the US, they may or may not even be able to leverage this because of the AMD and Sony partnerships around it. Sony owns, so they're in the front end of the development and the production cycle. Again, they're not paying the big markups like the AI centers are paying AMD and NVIDIA and all the rest of them for buying the stuff. Sony's at the manufacturing end, they're at the front end of this. So they have cost reduction because they're not paying the markups. They've got direct access to the production facilities to be able to throttle up and down without having to wait in line for production work. And they're doing all this now. This isn't what they might do. They've done it or they're doing it now. So when you're at the front end with production, you're not paying the markups. They've then got access to influence the technology itself and get rebates, direct rebates paid back to the company for that. And suddenly, between 1/3 and half of your R&D input is getting given back to you. When that translates through the bean counters into what does this thing actually cost us, you go from a break-even selling point of somewhere near 1,000 US, suddenly you're back down to around the 400 or 500 US. That's how they're going to beat the cost issue. Now, there's a heap of other technical and, on paper trickery that can be done. It's all legal. That can be done to make this thing look better. By the time we get there, we'll have gotten over this AI hump. It'll be embedded. Access to it will mean that the materials to be able to produce a PS6 are going to come off their current peaks. But if they're not having to pay these markups to all these third parties, unlike what their competitors are, Microsoft doesn't have that capability. Steam doesn't have that capability. Nintendo leverages some of PlayStation's production work to get to where they are. So that's where the benefit comes in. If they're not making the gain at selling it to the consumer with the software, then the hardware costs are being offset by their federal government basically and their tax office giving them money back for having invested in this stuff.
Well, it's funny, David, what you're saying.
That's where a lot of it kicks in.
And I appreciate that insight. A few people in the chat are like, what does this have to do with PlayStation? Well, I mean, what David's really alluding to, and this is what happens. So whether you're talking about the chipsets and the chip manufacturing, or you're talking about the AMD development, the more that they're doing in-house here, it helps them control. And David, tell me if I'm wrong. It helps them control their timeline as far as deliverables and also their cost. Which in the end, if they're on time and their cost is reduced because they're not affected by third-party pricing, what does that mean for you guys out there? Sam in the chat who's asking is a lower-priced PlayStation 6 for the consumer, and possibly even a better overall product, meaning capabilities as far as resolution output, as far as performance, and it depends. David and Dee kind of went through about 3 or 4 different areas that touch on different parts of what the PS6 capabilities might in fact be. So go ahead, Dee. I don't know if you wanted to chime in.
Yeah. I just want to chime in real quick on costs as well. They basically came out and said that they procured enough RAM to last them till like next year. And I'm going to assume while they're out there getting their deals for the RAM on the PlayStation 5 that they're probably getting their deals for the RAM on the PlayStation 6 as well. And with that new information that was just told to me that they have their own fabs there, I think that's really going to help them keeping the price down. And like I said, I think they're going to get some cost reduction from AMD for their part of the R&D as well. Now, speaking on the PlayStation 6 hardware, what to expect from it. Now, the Amethyst project is basically concentrating on the ray tracing performance and the machine learning. So the ray tracing and the machine learning that's on there, I think it's going to be, it's going to be doing some wild, crazy stuff,
Mhm.
and that's where the customization comes, where some of the stuff isn't, not going to be on the traditional RDNA5. Like I said, it'll make its way to like the next iteration, or their refresh. And so for people to sit there and say, oh, it's not RDNA5, it's just ridiculous. And like let's just go back to present day. How did that turn out? You said that the PlayStation 5 wasn't RDNA2, yet it did ray tracing fine, it did everything fine. Yes, it lost in a few games to the Xbox, but it was like like a 5% loss. Like it was like nothing, was barely nothing,
Right.
for the fraction of the price. Their compression technology is better. If you look at the download sizes for the PlayStation 5 games compared to the Xbox games, it's not even close. Like,
No, it's not.
Kraken plus
technology
Oodle
is
Kraken plus Oodle is incredible.
yeah, it's much better. You have some games that load faster on the PlayStation 5. So you can't just look at the specs at the end of the day. And knowing what I know now, there's no such thing as full RDNA 5. There's only RDNA 5. And what features are you going to choose to put on your customization of it? That's basically it. And performance wise, what I've been told is that we can expect around 5070 Ti ish performance out of the PlayStation 6, and to approximately about 5080 performance on the Xbox Series, or whatever you want to call it, the next Xbox Next Hybrid. Now, I think that the compression, because Sony once again announced they're doing some compression technology for the PlayStation 6. I think that's going to help them, because that's going to alleviate that they have lower bandwidth. I think that's going to help them. I think the machine learning and ray tracing, personally, I think it's going to be better on the PlayStation than it is on the next Xbox. I think the next Xbox is going to have the upper hand with the raw compute. But I think when it comes to things with like ray tracing and machine learning, I think that's where Sony is going to close the gap with the technology that they have on it. Now, if they're doing that at, let's say 800 to a 900 price point, compared to, the next console or hybrid or PC, whatever the hell you want to call it, between the 1200 and 1500, where I think it's going to lie, that's pretty significant. And like, before I, wrap all this stuff on this, I just got to be honest. I don't like Xbox guys are so pissed off at me, because, I used to have kind of an Xbox centric channel, and now, I'm speaking the truth, and all of a sudden everything that I've said in the past and everything I say is just nonsense. It's not true. And, it's just unbelievable, the bias that they have on their own, company cheerleading. And I just got to be honest with you guys out there. The Xbox hybrid console, it's a PC. It is a PC that's going to be in a smaller form factor, that is running Windows 11 full screen experience. Now, to those people saying, oh, but it's going to be running backwards compatible titles. Now, I could be wrong on this part, but I'm pretty sure the backwards compatible titles are going to be the games that are available on PC. I don't think they're really going to be playing a lot of your Xbox old 360 games. We're hearing that they're going to do the emulator on it. And if they do the emulator on it, then 100% that next console's price is going to be $1,500 minimum, because the emulator costs a lot of money to implement that hardware into that system.
Just from a common sense standpoint, why would Xbox spend so much resource and so much additional expense creating two separate drives and SKUs and processing units, and into one box, and cramming both into one box, when the same games are all already on just one platform? It makes no sense that they would have a dedicated Xbox player to play Xbox games natively in a PC, mini PC format.
Well,
it's just not going to happen. I don't want to. Xbox is now PC. It's that simple.
I don't want to say it's not going to happen. This is what I'm hearing, right? I'm hearing there's going to be OEM ones, and that the OEM ones, they're not going to play the backwards compatible titles. They're just going to have access to the ones that you have access on PC. And I'm hearing that the actually Xbox made one is going to be using hardware in there to simulate the old systems. and it's going to be more expensive. That's what I'm hearing. AMD's pretty much confirmed this too. At least
the key is that simulate D, like you said, that they're using.
It's going to be an emulator. It's going to be an emulator.
It's an emulator. That's exactly what it is. It's a PC. It's a PC. People don't want to accept it, but it's a PC. It's not an Xbox.
It's a PC. But the way that it's going to work is that obviously you're not going to be freaking installing emulators and finding the ROMs or finding the games. You're gonna. I'm gonna assume it's gonna have a disk drive. Put the disk drive in. It's gonna read the disk, and then it's gonna allow you to have the license, and then it's gonna download a copy of the game into your system. That's pretty much what I'm hearing. It's gonna be, and the OEM one is not gonna offer that.
So there's a shout out to Sam who's in the chat. I'm going back and forth with him. It's just easier for me to talk to him versus type all this because I want to talk to the panel as well. Sam's like, I don't care about. He was talking about Sony, and just to read here for a second here, he says. Where is it? Hold on one second. He goes, Mooch, I want Sony to do good and get back to the creativity they used to have. That's dead now. The decline has begun. PlayStation 5 this year alone, Sam, is going to be giving you, you have Wolverine that's coming first party. You have deals in place because of what D was just talking about and the route that Xbox is going. You have situations like that are going to be happening with Silent Hill Townfall. That's going to be a console exclusive for a while. Now, PC's getting these too, so this is not a PC conversation. This is just a one-on-one about consoles. They have that there. You have Marathon that's coming out. You may not like Marathon, but Marathon has gotten more hype over the past month. It was going to be DOA. Now people are actually saying, I'm going to be streaming it. You've got the big channels out there. You've got people excited for it. So, and then I said to Sam also, I said, and I agree with him on this point. This is one of the most financially successful generations for PlayStation as well. I think they've come out and said that, David, a few times as well. So, and again, he says, I don't care what kind of money they make. That I agree with you. I don't care what Xbox and PlayStation are making. That doesn't do us any good. But there's a list. Did you see? There's actually the showcase, Sam, is on the, I'm showing it right now. There was a lot of games that were shown that are coming out this year. Some of them going to be console exclusive to PlayStation because they're not going to be on Xbox, right? They're not going to be on
Hill.
Right, Silent Hill. Go ahead. I mean, so when he says the creative, and we're going to get into Bluepoint because the Bluepoint thing is a big deal. It is a big deal, Sam. I get that, but you can't say, oh, they closed Bluepoint. We don't know yet what's going on. I've heard from, I don't have source, so I'm not going to say it's happening, but I've heard that a lot of Bluepoint's developers were offered other positions within Sony. Yes. That has been circling behind the scenes. I'm sure that an article will come out. Maybe Bloomberg will cover it. Maybe someone else. I don't. But my point being is that it is. We'll still talk about the Bluepoint issue because I don't like how I think the acquisitions were bad for Sony, and I said the acquisitions were bad for Microsoft. Both are proving to be true. So it's not a case that. So Sam, I don't think that this doom and gloom you're writing in the chat. I'm not really buying into it. I think you're just kind of running with the headlines you're seeing from your favorite person that you follow. That's not necessarily what's really going on. David, go ahead. Did you want to speak? I know David wanted to say something.
Oh, it just if you could see me on camera now, you'd see me flailing my arms around and swearing profusely at some of the stupid comments that are being made here.
Yeah.
Okay. So, if anyone thinks that the creativity of PlayStation is dead and it's not what it was, how could you say that looking at what they've got coming and those of us who were there back in the mid to late 90s? It's the same. They have not changed their business model in 30 years. Their internal studios, they've never had a long list of massive studios because they can't manage them. The reason why they didn't buy Ubisoft, it's the reason why they didn't buy EA, it's the reason why they have resisted buying these massive publishers, even though they could have quite easily gone and got Sega or Square Enix or a multitude of them. They do not have the ability, the capacity, or the capability to manage that many studios. PlayStation has always had a better way of managing things by doing second and third party arrangements and not having the risk on deck. They would rather just engage with and leave the risk sitting out there with them because of things that I keep saying is the corporate overhead would crush small studios and it's crushing them now.
Yep.
Now, let's get into the specifics about Bluepoint. Bluepoint.
Can we, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. I had something that I desperately wanted to say about flipping the previous topic, but we moved on. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Let's
just carry on.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit of Blueprint, and then Willie, if you want to go back, I'm sure we can go back because I have the great Andy Hart. The super chat's working. He's got a comment that will bring us back to that, Willie. So don't lose track of that. Type it or write it down. Go ahead, David. Finish. Go on, if you want to go ahead and lean into Bluepoint. I do want to talk about this.
So let's talk about what's happened since the mass consolidation wars of 2020. What's happened? They brought on PlayStation responded to movements in the market by other players, other major platform owners, in an attempt to do consolidation to bury PlayStation. So their response was to go and make targeted investments where they could afford to do so, by bringing in high quality studios, knowing that they were going to struggle to do that at the same time as trying to push forward with a live service experiment that they had previously had in the plans, but was going to be done using third parties because they didn't want to have it on hand. They then made a change, had to react and bring a heap of the stuff on board. Now, it was up to the studios at the time to accept the extra funding to go above and beyond to do the live service or not. Most took it and then were unable to actually achieve it. Now let's get specific about Bluepoint. Bluepoint came on deck after doing Demon's Souls remake for the PS5 launch. They absolutely smashed that out of the park, and they'd done remakes for PlayStation previously. So they had a history, had a pedigree, and they had runs on the board. They then come on board. They were given 2 remake jobs. They wanted to do their own IP, and they were given the option to do a live service. They accepted that option. Fast forward to 2023, they've done nothing. Effectively released nothing, and they're in absolute turmoil. So they get pushed with a bit of a figure it out or get going. 2024, live service game gets dropped. 2025, they stopped working on their own IP to focus on the remakes. At this point, that remake had been going for 3 years. And they put 100-man or 100-person studio on trying to get that remake out to the market. In October, November last year, the play tests went horribly. They got given 8 weeks to fix it. Do something to advance this thing forward. Then they got to January. That was it. They'd run out of chances. Now, everyone's blaming Sony and Herman and all the rest of it. It's their job to publicly front up to, and these decisions are made. But they're not made just by one person. There is a multitude of layers of management and advisors and teams that work on this. We're talking hundreds of people between Herman or whoever's making the decision, the public announcement that it's going to be closed, down to the studio level management. The studio level management, those responsible for the day-to-day running of Bluepoint, not the line managers and not the team leaders, but the studio management, were constantly told what your performance expectations are. Here's your support. You can use XDev, you can use other studios. Here's your support. Here's your budgets. Here's the expectations of performance. Here's PlayStation Production. Scott Rhodey and Assad Quizzlebash and others showing up to give feedback about where things need to be at multiple points of that game. Let's not forget, Shuhei is visiting through this studio through a lot of this time and providing his feedback on this. So that studio leadership has had multiple opportunities and multiple feedback points and multiple chances to do something to advance this, as well as negotiate up the chain and say, hey, we think this is working. We don't think this is working. We're not sure what's going on. They had 2 games cancelled on them in the space of 2 years, and they had nothing left in the creative bank to pull forward to try and work on it. And they shat the bed on a remake, which they managed to successfully do twice previously. So think about how much of a cluster it was them to have absolutely dropped the ball on a remake, which was their bread and butter business. How bad must it have been? The feedback that I heard was that the playtest in October, November was worse in that remake than the original game. it was worse.
Wow.
How badly must they have been performing internally to get to that point after having worked on it for the better part of 3 years and throwing an entire studio at it for 12 months?
Yeah.
See, management at Bluepoint has to wear. They can't just sit back and say, "Oh, Sony this, Sony that, big bosses in Japan, blah blah blah." No, bullshit. I'll call bullshit on that.
Mhm.
The studio's management had a duty of care to make sure that they were doing what was right for that studio, and maintaining the expectations and communicating up the tree on where they were at and what was going on, and being able to provide it. They failed to do that, so they're the ones that are first and foremost responsible for the downfall of that studio.
Let me ask you a question,
They're not
David.
performing.
David, you may have
They're not-
David, you may have covered this already, and I apologize because I was also busy with somebody in the chat. But so the one thing that they're saying, and if you, again, David, if you did, I apologize if you're repeating yourself. I caught that whole last part, but I wanted to make sure that the one thing that they're saying though, where it's not Bluepoint's fault, was they were told to do the live action service for, you know, whatever that is there, the games as a service, well, that, and so once they were told that, and then that faltered. At that point, they were like, well, do you have anything else? And then at a certain period of time had gone by and they had not shown anything or didn't have anything that was with a reasonable time frame. Again, I'm piecing this together from small stories that are coming out. And Sony was basically like, right? So
18 months ago, they cancelled that live service. It got pulled. They just couldn't get it to where it needed to be, so they stopped doing it. 18 months ago.
I just got to respond quickly to Wild Wolf 387, who says, so David is blaming everything on Bluepoint, really? Wild Wolf, if you just rewind, mate, just rewind and listen again to what David was saying. Never did he say that all the blame is on Bluepoint. You know, take the cotton wool out your ears. All right, he never said that. But ultimately, there is a problem if fundamentally, you know, the studio isn't communicating properly with the publisher, and ultimately the studio is responsible. He went through a list of how over several years there has been multiple failings in several areas in the studio that were avoidable if the studio was managed correctly. And let's not all pretend it's easy to say that a studio is always solely managed by the publisher, but no, you know, there are managers within studios, studio managers, art directors, decision makers for a reason, because they do call the shots. They feed back those shots to the higher ups in the publisher. Yeah, of course, but let's not just blanket slate everything is Sony's fault. You know, when there is obviously a cultural shift within the studio after they were purchased by Sony. Whether that's because of the purchase, I don't know. Folky might have more information on that, but he wasn't saying that it is all Bluepoint's fault.
So real quick before we go to Folky again, I got a couple of, I just want to read these. These are much easier to read if I actually go to, right here on this. This is a lot easier to read.
Much easier to read if you read them.
Yeah, it might be easier to read, but I'll tell you right now, these are legitimately like so hard to read on OBS. It's ridiculous how small the print is. But the Gaming Ledger, he says, online chatter on Bluepoint is all sorts of bad faith actors coming out of the woodwork. Sony's going risk adverse. Look at their publishing deals. Ocelot comes out. He says Bluepoint wasn't forced to make a live service game. There is no evidence of that, but they tried to make a God of War live service, which was scrapped. You can't go 5-10 years without a game unless you're Naughty Dog. Okay, Ocelot with a bit of a jab there at Naughty Dog. Ocelot comes back. He says devs have many games at different stages, so Bluepoint had no good ideas to keep them around for years. Live service push is very important to PlayStation. Future, he said future Colin Moriarty is 100% right about that. So I'm not sure if that was something that Colin had said or not. Shout out to Ocelot again. He says developing a game for $300 to $600 million, 5 to 6 years to only have ROI of $200 million isn't sustainable for the whole company. At some point, there won't be a PlayStation console. So then I saw a few people asking Ocelot, hey, where did you get those numbers? So I don't know where Ocelot got those numbers. I'm reading these super chats. I appreciate the super chats, though, Ocelot. Mariko, shout out to Brian East. He says, remember raising Kratos. All studios go through a similar process. Some of them just get shot down when they don't perform. Shout out to Brian East. And Glinster says, imagine Rockstar hiring the Bluepoint people to do a full remake of GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas. that'd get a stone cold hell yeah. I mean, the thing about it though, like I said, from what I'm hearing, and I'm waiting for you want to have a Bloomberg report or something come out that verifies this. So this is all speculation, but I'm hearing a lot of people closing a studio down, closing the lights, keeping that property, blah, 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 all that overhead, go on, but then retaining some of that talent that wanted to go work with other Sony studios. We'll see what happens there if others are going to, are they going independent? Are they going to go to work for other companies? Are they going to stay within Sony's PlayStation Studios? We don't know that quite yet. David or Wooly, one of you were going to comment a second ago. I apologize.
Yeah, sorry. The GTA 3 remake, yeah, cool. That'd be awesome. But they were given as Sony IP and access to XDev and a whole heap of other stuff, and they couldn't get that one to work after doing. This is a thing that a lot of people just seem to go, oh, it's all about the margins. So you can't afford to pay for these things if they're not meeting the standards. And Sony's got some pretty high standards, fair enough, but others seem to be able to meet them. And Bluepoint had met them in the past. And then suddenly, and again, people bang on about the live service piece. Forget it. It's that far in the past that it doesn't have an impact on this now. They had a whole 12 months of working on this game. This last one that they had a whole 12 months to work on it with an entire studio of 75 to 100 people. And they were still hiring 3 months ago for this thing. And they had an IP that was a remake IP from a first-party point. And they couldn't get it to work. And I sound so wound up about this, and I'm so infuriated because you're blaming the wrong people. How the hell did they go from doing Demon Souls to not being able to repeat that? How does that happen? It doesn't happen from Sony's point. It happens at studio level. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You're spitting facts, Folky.
To sit back and blame Herman for pulling the trigger on a point that they were told would happen if they didn't pull their socks up and get to work is ludicrous.
Yeah, I mean,
it's 6 levels of management and decision making between Herman and the studio head.
There is literally some blame. I mean, listen, you if you do a phenomenal job, you retain it. You know what I mean? Like, I do think some of the blame is definitely on Sony, but you do have to look at it. They did analyze this. It wasn't just one person was bored one day and they're like, let's just get rid of the studio. There probably was a little bit on the performance end and what they were seeing. They had milestones to meet. I mean, that's a valid point, David. That is a valid point. You don't see a lot of people talk about that, but it really is. It's not always just a detriment. If you've been to a local restaurant around your area, you ever go somewhere and you find out that they were closed, and you're like, they're closed, and then the person in the car next to you goes, well, I ate there 2 or 3 times. It was kind of meh. You know what I mean? So, like, it was like, all right, well, they've got an impeccable record. But what have they done for you lately? That's the whole thing. It's the same thing in sports. We say this in sports, but then it's not okay in games. I'm a Giants fan. 2007, 2011, we won two Super Bowls very close to each other. I was like, oh my God. You know what I mean? Sky's the limit. Well, it's like, what have you done for me lately? US Giant fans now, if they're happy to be a Giants fan, I think we went like 3-31 in the last couple of years. I mean, I'm joking there, but it was pretty bad. Pretty bad. So it's, it's not just the resume. The resume is a part of it. The talent's there. But, sometimes if it doesn't hit or doesn't make the milestones, they choose to shut that down. And David gave plenty of examples of reasons of how that may have transpired. Right? So, I mean, it is an interesting talking piece, at the very least. I do see that.
It's a good reminder that, studios and game development it's a volatile turnover rate because the Shadow of the Colossus, they're mentioning that, and it was a masterpiece. Absolutely, it's still one of the best looking games ever made. The remake that Bluepoint created, but they got to work on that game 13-14 years ago. They were a completely different studio. It released 9 years ago. So like you've got to remember, staff that were there have moved on to other departments, and it's not the same studio that it was. And evidently, there's been a shift in how the studio is fundamentally managed at a studio level internally after the release of Demon Souls. And, I don't know if Leviathan Gamer, shout out to him, it was nice to hear D-Batch giving him his flowers, because I've always given that lad his flowers for the decade or so that I've known the lad. But Leviathan Gamer and maybe Folky himself might know more about this, but after the initial successes of PS5 initial releases from Spider-Man to Demon Souls remake, and even Sony Santa Monica, there seemed to be a mad hiring spree, and some studios overspent in certain departments that were completely unnecessary. I think Spider-Man 2 in the writing department made an absolute pig's ear of that, didn't they? But there was almost 20 writers on Spider-Man 2 when there was only 3 on the original. Hence why it seemed more like a Disney film than a Disney show than the actual the handcrafted masterpiece that the first game was. And I don't know if maybe that same kind of culture creeped into Bluepoint after their purchase, or what it was that was within the studio itself at a studio level that resulted in this poor output. I don't know if you know anything about that, Folky, or if you're allowed to say anything because of your sources.
I'm not sure.
Hello,
David. Well, David's muted. He may be on a work call.
Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, I was on mute. Just repeat the last part of that question.
Do you know if at a studio level there was anything going on at Bluepoint after their purchase akin to, I don't know, like Insomniac spending an absolute fortune on staff, and that made and there was that culture going around after the initial release successes of the PS5, where studios were overspending like crazy. And did any of that kind of culture creep into Bluepoint?
Yes, in a couple of different ways. Obviously, when an independent studio gets purchased, the money doesn't go into the studio's bank account. It goes to the people who own it for the buyout, right? So those that owned Bluepoint got all the money that was paid for it. Undisclosed sum. Millions involved in this, but undisclosed sum. So then they've got them on board. You naturally have some churn in the first 6 months of getting things bedded in and assimilated and integrated and all the rest of that vertical structure stuff that goes on. Then you've got to do another 6 months after that of getting the right people in the right zone to keep the thing going, right? And it's not like Bluepoint was bought with nothing going on. They had stuff going on that Sony had provided to them and was expecting them to achieve. They've then done the uplift when they've been offered the opportunity to have a go at doing a live service, and then they got funded for the conceptual point, bring to some level of playability or pitching of the game at a playable state for their own IP. Mind you, they've still got the remake stuff that PlayStation had engaged them to do anyway, sitting there being worked on. So the investment to go from 40 or 50 doing a remake up to 100 and then beyond that, because they went up to, I think, about 180 staff at one stage, to go up to do these, or it might have been over 200, to go up to do these things. So it's not like they were told you have to do one or the other. They were expanding to try and have multiple teams doing multiple jobs. And like everyone else over that period figured it out, you can't do that. It doesn't work. You end up getting delayed and you end up robbing from Peter to pay Paul to try and keep up, and it all just falls in a heap. And it's not just Sony studios who've had this problem. It's been across the board. All the big publishers and studios have had this problem. Seems to be more prevalent in the Western studios than it does in the Asian-based studios. That's a conversation for another time, because that's more around culture and work ethics than it is around funding and structure.
David, when it comes to structure and it comes to timelines and deadlines, I'm there with you on that. But a lot of people are asking, not only in the chat, but I saw online today, people are saying, well, Media Molecule hasn't put anything out in a while, and Bend hasn't put anything out in a while. Why is it all of a sudden Bluepoint seems to have the hot seat?
The main reason for Bluepoint is that they've failed to meet, and Haven is suffering recently and will suffer for this as well. They're not meeting the internal expectation points. They're not hitting the performance milestones. It's not like you go, here's money to build a game for an internal studio, and it's not just Sony that does this. All the rest of them do it as well. You got an idea? Great. Take your idea and get it to a vertical slice of some representation of what it would look like or what it would play like. And then we'll fund you to that point, and then we'll make a decision if it's worth continuing or not. And very famously, Shuhei Yoshida is, and among others, have pointed out, Sony will kill 80% of its games at that point. Barely 20% at best get past the first playtest. Because the question is this going to be better than something that's on the market right now? And if the answer is no, knocked on the head, go and try again. If good studio with good studio management will have 3 or 4 ideas ready to go. They're all competing for a limited amount of funding. It happens at all of them.
Yeah.
But I'd say famously and notoriously, PlayStation kills 80% of its ideas at that point. 1 in 20? I think that was the last metric I saw. Something like 1 in 20. So 5% of games that get pitched actually make it to market at PlayStation and in their internal studios. So the 80% get knocked on the head when they get to the first playtest. If they're good enough to get past that, then they go through and they have different milestones as they go along. It's critical points they've got to meet and timeframes to meet it in. You can't just give an open-ended checkbook to these things, because otherwise you end up with games that take 15 years to make that they're just a mess. They need to be structured projects. They're no different. They're an IT construction project, development project. They're no different to anything else. But if you're going to have that kind of, that quality level internally, you've got to meet it. Bend, remember what, 12 months ago, they had a downsizing because a game got cancelled because it just didn't meet the quality points and they weren't going to get any more time to do it. Decision was made. And if it's above studio level where the decision's made, but it's the studio level is responsible for meeting those targets and communicating when they're not going to meet it, or if they need to have adjustments done to meet them. So if the production team says didn't meet it, and it goes up from production team to regional, and they go, well, we've got competing funding points. What are we going to fund? What are we not? Okay, these ones are going to get the funding because they've met requirements. These ones aren't. Are we going to give them more time or not? Yes or no? That's happening at regional level. If you've failed at local and to meet the targets, and you failed at production review, and you failed at regional, and then you go up to the top office of these are the ones that have failed not once, not twice, but consistently failed to meet the outputs at these key intervals of milestones. They've not made significant enough progression beyond the failure points. What option has they got? They're running a business. They're not running a charity.
Yeah, that's.
You've said that the chat keeps saying they should get them to do this, they should get them to do that. Just stop and think for a minute. That studio was unable to achieve minimum performance requirements to remake a game where they'd previously done it and smashed it out of the park. So something has gone catastrophically wrong at the studio. Yeah, Sony's fair enough. Sony's got to wear some of this because they probably shouldn't have bought them in the first place. But that was a response to a market involvement. A lot of these, the good people at that studio that are worth keeping are going to get shuffled over into XDev or go and work at a different studio. That's fine. There's protections there for those that want to put in and work and achieve. But something catastrophic, and I don't use that word lightly, something catastrophic has occurred at that studio. And you can keep banging on about the live service push. There was uplift to add that on. It wasn't redirection of current resources. It was additional resources. And they got to keep half of those additional resources when the live service game got canned 18 months ago. It's not a determining factor in today's decisions. 18 months ago, they canned it knowing it was going to happen months in advance. They would have redirected resources immediately to other points.
Yeah.
And 18 months to work to a point of not being able to progress a fucking remake, say, is it going to play better or not than the original? Like, come on.
Yeah, there's a lot behind the scenes when you start to look into it to discuss more than we just seen on Twitter. You know what I mean? So I do agree with you on some of your points there. Shout out to the Super Hemi.
Sorry.
Go ahead, David.
Sorry. So Sony's got runs on the board in doing this too. Remember the KOTOR remake? That was sitting with, I can't remember who it was sitting with now. And they shat the bed. Whoever they asked to do had pedigree in doing remakes, and they couldn't get it to work. And Sony went, you know what? You're not doing it anymore. We're going to give it to Saber.
Right.
Someone else is going to have a crack at this, and you're not going to do it anymore.
Mhm.
And they've done it in the past with others. They're just like,
They are
whatever the
cutthroat.
performance requirements are, if they're not met, they don't muck around with it. If they think someone else is capable of progressing it, or there's
That's
an
a great
opportunity
point
to
with
continue it,
Kotar. Yeah, Kotar, you're right. Yes. Yeah, they didn't can that. They said you can't do this. That's fine. We see where it is. They handed it off to another team.
Ultimately, you can blame Sony for closing the studio down, but you can't blame Sony for not developing a product that Sony felt was viable. You know, like you can't for not meeting deadlines. You can't do that, and you know, it's not all the blames on Bluepoint, not at all. You know, however, it's like Marathon. If Marathon hadn't received, and I knew they would turn it around. I did say I have a more positive, hopeful outlook on Marathon. But Marathon looked like it was going to be either DOA or shut down before even release at one point. And Bungie have got to work in trying to turn the ship around.
Yeah.
Whose fault was it that it was shite on its initial showing? Was it Sony's fault? No. Yeah. So it was Bungie's. You were quick to blame Bungie for that, right? But we're not going to. But wait, Bluepoint are infallible because of Demon Souls that released 6 years ago. You know, it doesn't.
I would just like to see. I'm looking forward to the next report because I think, like I said, I think you're going to see more come out as time goes on. And listen, there's a lot of talented people at Bluepoint. There's no way around it, right? I think the talented people definitely find jobs at other Sony studios. Others that are wicked talented are going to find either maybe they'll open their own independent studio, or they'll go work for another team. I mean, like, that's all out there. Now, what I'm interested to find out is a lot of what David's saying, the milestones, the deliverables, where these meetings were, what happened in those 18 months after that one got canceled. What did they do after that? Did they start something? Did they have something progressive? Did they have a plan? Sony went back 2 or 3 times. Do you have a plan? If you don't, there was something that came out right here. I have it, and I don't know what this is on. It's something with it's I don't know what it was. Something says verified, and it's from Glassfruit or something. I don't know. It says I love Bluepoint, and it's extremely sad. Though the simple answer is the team didn't have a product for almost 6 years, and we're far away from realizing revenue, which makes them a target. So like that's why also people say if that's true. And I don't know where that came. I don't know if that was Reddit or where that came from. I have no idea. But it's one of those things that's like insiders. You guys have seen it. It's all over Twitter. Nothing I'm reading there is late breaking. But my point being is that like if you're not meeting the deadlines, like that's the thing. The thing that makes me more worried about it is what Bend. Where are they with their milestones? Where are they? What is going on also with Media Molecule? A lot of people have been asking about that. It's just. Yeah, shout out to Firefighter Alf. He says, "What's up, Mooch?" He says, "So many studios are closing. I don't know if it's just bloated and consolidating or too much development cost versus expectations." That's actually quite interesting. Eric,
you think about. Sorry, I don't mean to keep cutting.
Go ahead.
There's a slight delay. Wonderful internet that we have in Australia. Just think about where they're situated, and a lot of these closures have occurred. Fair enough. They're not just shutting them down because they don't see any promise in them. You think about what most of these studios have got in them. They've either got creative art leads, or they're predominantly coding and developing in that area. Well, it's not like they have to stay in gaming. I mean, you imagine how much SpaceX or Elon or whoever the hell else it is that's moving into Texas is paying for software developers to go and work in those AI centers.
Yeah.
And think about how much the cost is there. I was chatting with, I think it was BRAP, chatting with someone about it. The average cost per developer, for a software engineer level developer in the US, whole of US average, it was $200 and something $1,000 per person per year, just to have the person in the company. And if they got 100 people at $200,000 a year, that's just to have them behind a desk and working. You think about what that cost is for your labor.
Well, so
tell me how much how much money? So just to be clear, that's $20 million a year in labor costs,
Mhm.
and that's including some on-cost, so insurances and payroll
Yeah.
taxes and
But
that sort of stuff.
David, you're talking
That's-
about the money end of it, and you're making sense on that. What I'm saying, so shout out to Trey Bone in the chat. He says they had no products because Sony didn't give them anything. Trey Bone, listen, I've known you for a long time, and I know you listen to a lot of podcasts. It's not on Sony to tell the teams what to develop. All the like. Do you think that Sony told Neil Druckmann to make Intergalactic? And shout out to Babor. Babor's here. He says even Housemarque is launching a second game in 5 years. So
Just remind me, who are the creatives here?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Who
Like,
are the creatives?
don't get me wrong. I
right?
will say if they were spoon fed, that live service game and they were told to do it, that's one thing. I get that. But then they also had time after that was canceled to give a perspective on what they had coming down the pipe. And if they didn't have anything coming down the pipe, that's where this decision started to be made. That's what I'm trying to say to you guys. You know what I mean? It's one of those situations. It's not. We just got a quick little snippet on the Bloomberg report. He's probably going to investigate what actually happened, what was actually going on behind the scenes, what led to these situations. It's not just the fact that, oh my God, Sony's the devil. They got rid of Bluepoint. I mean, we all wanted Bluepoint to succeed. Demon's Souls was a masterpiece, right? The masterpiece of the remake that's unbelievable. The talent's there.
Incredible.
Talent's there. But the thing is, you also have to be creative talent, right? So you have to create something. If that was not there, they didn't have anything to show Sony when they went to go look. I mean, they're a new team. People are like, well, then Naughty Dog shouldn't be. Naughty Dog has made so much money for Sony in games and now TV shows and everything else. And Neil Druckmann's got Intergalactic that's probably going to release the last year of the PS5 console if we're sticking to the, listen, they get that grace period. They're their all-star. Sorry, it is. If you guys, again, I always bring it to sports because fanatic and being fanatical about your favorite thing, I get it. But when you have Aaron Judge, or you have Juan Soto, okay? You have anybody that's on your team, Freddie Freeman, and they go on an absolute dry spell through the summer, June and July, they don't do well. You don't get rid of Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. You know what I mean? But if Brett Beatty doesn't hit, you guys probably who the hell's Brett Beatty? He's a young upcoming star for the Mets. If he doesn't hit for 4 months, that dude's, he's going to either get released, he's not going to get his contract, or he's going to get traded. So I mean, it's one of those people in the chat are like, well, Naughty Dog should be gone then. Not the same thing. That's not the same thing.
Naughty Dog had Intergalactic in mid-development when the multiplayer The Last of Us Factions got canned. So
that's a good point.
They had a backup.
They had something. So when something got when they got something canceled, they say, "Hey, what do you got?" "Oh, I got this." "Oh, okay, wow." "Hey, this is getting canceled. What do you got?" "We got nothing." "Okay, wow." It's a different scenario.
But that's not, and that's not a surprise visit, and that's not a surprise answer. We're not talking about someone showed up, knocked on the door from Sony Productions and went, knock, knock, knock. Here's half a dozen of us to come in and have a conversation about where you're at and what's going on. They knew well in advance that meeting was happening, and they would have been talking well in advance of what's expected, what needs to come from it. It's not like they just go, I'm making a decision and telling the world, and then everyone finds out and it's oh shit, well, this is a shock and a surprise.
Right.
Management at the studio knew this was coming.
Mm-hmm.
They had to have known. You can't front up to those kind of management meetings and say, I got nothing. We creatively got nothing in the tank because we can't figure anything out. And having had 2 games cancelled and a remake fail to get to the point in 3 years after having done such a great job.
Yeah.
And for them to be
something happened.
Yeah, and for them to be decisively shipped over to XDev in droves shows that a plan was already put in place to salvage what they could. So, it's obviously pre-calculated. It's not just like a surprise board meeting where even the director and Herman himself were thinking, "Oh, what do we do? Oh, let's just close one of our crown jewels."
Mm-hmm.
It's fair enough if you've got an issue around facility costs. And housing of staff and all the rest of it. If you've got a big building that's costing you millions of dollars a year to operate and you've got no one sitting in it, well, you get rid of it, fair enough. But then do you have the studio still exist if it doesn't have an actual footprint? And that's another conversation in of itself. If you're going to downsize a studio and get rid of their actual physical footprint, and ship them into working from home arrangements, or have them touch pointed somewhere else, well, then, yeah, it makes common sense to do that in a lot of aspects when you're trying to do cost reduction. Because if no one's using the facility, why would you spend millions of dollars to have it?
That's it.
Then you're taking away their identity, and you take away some of their ability to collaborate and all the rest of it. Well, yeah, that's part of what comes with it. But if there's no physical studio, does that studio still exist? And therein lies a deeper philosophical conversation around what are they actually getting rid of? What they said they're going to shut the studio, and that was fine. I could shut down one of the branches of Walmart shuts down a branch, a store, and they redirect everyone to other stores. Have they shut down Walmart? No.
Wait,
No.
Falky, wait, Bluepoint didn't have an actual base of operations anymore?
Well, if they shut down, what I'm saying is if they've got a building that's not being used or utilized well.
Was that the
and it's
case with
costing them-
Bluepoint?
Bluepoint had a heap of people. Most of the US studios have still got a heap of people working from home. And that's like, you remember
That's
the
crazy.
directive? Remember the
Oh
directive
my
that came
goodness.
out? Naughty Dog. It was reported that Naughty Dog was told, "Get your asses back in the office and get back to work."
Yeah, that was
Mate, I
reported.
forgot all about that. I forgot that was even
Yeah.
a thing. So that would explain a lot, and I don't think people understand that. I don't think people real. I didn't realize that. I forgot just how in America office culture has shifted to working from home. That will have a monumental impact.
It's well, it has it. No, don't get me wrong, you guys are right, but it has shifted a bit more to back in the office. I would say at the if it's at its peak, it's at 50-50. I mean, a lot more. It took a lot longer after COVID for a lot of the big companies, because you remember Microsoft came out. You remember it was, I don't know if it was 21 or 22, but they were one of the big vocal companies that said, we're letting our folks stay home. Then they changed that. Like I don't know if it was 23 or 24. It took us over here in the States a little bit longer. Now, don't get me wrong. Some jobs here in this country, you can work from home. They've been working from home for 20 years. Had nothing to do with COVID. But what I'm saying to you is, it has taken a little bit longer, Wooly, here. But I don't know if that's necessarily to blame. But I think, but the other thing too, David, is when we say there's a lot, I thought there was a total of 80 people at Bluepoint. Is that not 70 or 80 people? Is that accurate?
Yeah. That's accurate, depending on what day of the week, I guess.
Wasn't it like 180? Like at one point?
When they were at their peak, they were closer to 200.
Bloody hell! Well,
Oh, wow.
that kind of
Okay.
shows you that it's been a turbulent storm at that studio, with the overspending, then the cutting back, and then all because of COVID, and then with plus when you factor in the working from home, and you factor in the live service push, and that not working out, it's kind of been a bit of a recipe for disaster, really. We got to remember the world's a completely different place from when Demon Souls was in development. It's completely changed, and
A lot of it does come down to the dollars, and it's unfortunate. I know, but they're not in this thing for the love of it.
Mm-hmm.
They're in this thing, and I keep saying, everyone says Sony should buy this, Sony should buy that. So no, absolutely not. Sony should not buy. And if you get approached by Sony, do not agree to it. The overhead will crush you if you're an independent or a small studio. It will destroy you. Not just because of the performance expectations, but the amount of money you've got to make to cover it. You might get funded for funding to develop a game based on hitting key milestones. If you don't hit the milestones, the funding gets pulled. That's the end of it. You're done. That's what's happened in this case. Now, if you've got a live service game that gets cancelled, then your IP, you get your own IP gets cancelled, and you can't get a remake up. That's 3 strikes. And again, fair enough if we want to put some of the onus on Sony for this, but it's not up to them to be the creative at board and governance level. It's not up to Herman to be the creative lead. It's not up to Assad to be the creative lead. That's the studio's job.
Yeah, we say the example all the time. People use the example, then when you use it here, they're like, you can't use it here. But like when Yoshida went to go see the 2018 milestone review or whatever it was of God of War, he said, we're not shipping this. Go back to the drawing board, right? He said
Go back and try again.
Go back and try again. Now, the point of the matter is that like now we don't know how many times that may or may not have happened with Bluepoint. There's a lot, like I said, there's a lot missing here, folks. The thing is that you just see one side of it, and everyone's just blaming one side of it, and that's fine. Maybe at the end of the day, that is exactly where all the blame does land. But there's milestones, there's things that have to be shown during these updates to Sony. Same thing that Xbox goes to. Excuse me, I'm still getting over a cold. But like, you know, if they didn't meet those, this like David said, David's in this business, you know, he's in accounting. It's business. It is what it is. We'll see. I'm really hoping that, and I keep saying Bloomberg because they were the first to report it, so I'm plugging them. You know, I hope that they dig further and there's more information on this, because when a studio does close, you know, a lot of people that have these studios near and dear to their hearts from the games that they've created for them, they'd like to find out why. Like, what happened?
Away for a minute.
Say again. Oh, David's got to step away. Well, I got a couple super chats here. Shout out to the Super Hemi. He says Sony has first-party studios, but their end game has always been get people to play all the games on PlayStation and collect 30% for basically doing nothing. So what the Super Hemi's saying is basically Sony's always, whether you go back to the PS2 era, PS3, PS4, now PS5, and you can see from the state of play that was going on, right? Their deals and working with hand in hand with Konami, right? They want to have that. They've always been right. I mean, you know, sales of Call of Duty are better on PlayStation than they are on Xbox, right? They've always had that money coming in there. You know,
when you had Sean Benson like detailing the characters and the lore and the story of that indie game, that sequel indie game of that fox. I can't remember you got that Snow Fox and that kid. What's the name called of that? Anyway, you know what I mean. That game that was on State of Play. And you got Sean Benson literally like spelling out all the ins and outs about the game, and I'm like, this isn't even a Sony first-party Sony game, but they're obviously same with the Konami games that they listed. They're obviously really trying to build the strongest ties with all of these third and second-party developers and projects and games, because that's where the main source of revenue is. He isn't wrong. Exclusives are there to drive people to platforms and retain them, but they're not there to make money. The exclusives are not supposed to be the money makers, because they're the most expensive for Sony to make and to have released on their platform.
I think they'd certainly like to make a lot of money though on them. I mean, you know, games like Spider-Man, games like God of War made them a tremendous amount of money. But that's secondary. That's secondary in purpose. You know, the primary purpose of exclusives is to drive basically drive residual income by getting more and more people on the platform, passive income, so that they spend on the store, and you know that's why they're called flagship console sellers, system sellers. That's what they're there for. It's to differentiate platforms from one another and say to people, this is why you should own a PS5. Death Stranding was the system seller of a PS5 Pro, you know, and you know, so on and so forth. Spider-Man was the seller of a PS5. But yeah, I mean, he's absolutely spot on, and that is ultimately the end game, and that is not good, right? Because a monopoly destroys creativity, and when you have a monopoly, there's no more need to try. Hopefully, you know, Sony's integrity doesn't rust away super quickly, and they continue to be ambitious to have their identity. But what purpose is an identity for a man who owns everything? You know, if you own the industry, if you have no competitor to keep you on your toes, then brand identity becomes pointless. Some of what you're saying, I see what you mean, Wooly, but like shout out to Wabzilla there. He says if they're not there to make money, why did they just report Yotai carried them last quarter? I mean, that I know what you're saying is that it gives them that identity, right? It's they have Kratos, you have Nathan Drake, you have Ellie, you have Joel, you have what do you call it? Jin. You have a bunch of people. Like, you have the Astrobot. There's things that drive you to there, and I understand their moneymaker is that third-party deal, right? To make that 70% and sit there and enjoy that, right? You know, or make that 30%, pardon me. It's like that's a beautiful 30% to just sit there and kind of relax with. So, but at the same time, I do think first party, the emphasis is to perform at peak level, and that does mean in sales and in
don't get me
adaption
wrong,
rate.
Mooch. The sales are indicative of interest, and that's very important. If a game isn't selling well, then that's indicative that it's not a system seller, and that it's not a game that appeals to gamers, and that's not good. You know, your flagship sales hold your identity. They are the face of PlayStation, your flagship titles, and so it's very, very important that the quality is peak, and quality should naturally bring on sales. Yeah, it's a natural consequence of quality. So when a game doesn't sell well, yes, the studio is under intense scrutiny and may even be shut down. You know, but that's not because they haven't generated. That's not because they're reliant on the money those exclusives generate. The majority of revenue, and Folky can correct me if I'm wrong here, the majority of revenue is from that 30% of all of those games that aren't theirs. System sellers do sell revenue, do make revenue, yes, and it's a small piece of the pie, but it's still important. But it's secondary in importance compared to the appeal that those exclusives need to have, i.e., and that will be indicative of sales. That sales will indicate that. So it does go hand in hand. You know, it's.
Well, I hear you. Shout out to Moonshot. He says, I know that smell, that stink. He says Sony's moving like Xbox out here with this piss poor management of their studios this gen. That's the Xbox pheromone. You know, the thing about it is I think it's, you know, Xbox is doing their own thing right now. I wouldn't compare this to the only thing I saw people comparing a bit was the question of how Tango GameWorks was handled, you know, after their stealth drop of oh geez, now I have High on Life on my mind. It's not that game. It's oh shoot, you guys in the chat, although you can remind me, Tango GameWorks' game. I own it on all systems. Hi-Fi Rush, thank you. And you know, I guess if you want to make a comparison there, it's a discussion point. But I think David made some really good points on things that have to be met and in part of the business, and no one really wants to talk about that. And I get it because you know it sounds like it's, you know, it's not pointing blame. The thing about it is just business needs to be met on both sides of the coin. So until more information comes out, we really don't know. Shout out to Bring Light. I think he said Bring Light. It's so hard. I swear, I have my OBS. So the print is so small. What Sony did to Bluepoint is criminal, and Herman should be fired, especially with this Horizon multiplayer live service nonsense. So, okay, so you know, again, people really loved what Bluepoint gave them with you know, Demon Souls remake, but the thing about it is that I wouldn't exactly say, oh, well, that's because of the Horizon multiplayer. That Horizon multiplayer was, you know, already in the works. That was near done. Some of these games that are near done are going to launch. And if they don't succeed, you'll see what happens with Concord, right? They're not going to just shut those down. But in the case of Bluepoint, and what we're hearing in small whispers is they didn't have anything coming down the pipe. You know, and I think that's something that we just have to sit back, wait and see. So we'll wait on that one. So Bring Light, appreciate that. I already read Babor. So Babor said even Housemarque is launching a second game in 5 years. So shout out to Babor. The Spice and Span, he says Sony completely fumbled the bag and mishandled their studios this gen. Do you think they can turn it around for PS6? Well, I'll tell you something. To be honest with you, and Wooly and David, answer me on what you think here. Since they've bought the teams that they did buy, which was Bluepoint and acquired Bungie, they haven't been making any of those buys anymore, David. Isn't that interesting? I don't think you're going to see those. I don't think that we're going to see many more of those, if any at all, moving forward.
I think they've learned a valuable lesson.
Yeah, who's the smartest one? Arrowhead. You know why? Because they got offered and they said no.
That's right. That's right.
Like, no, they
they were like, no, thank you.
Sony I'll argue this to the end of time. Sony's best pathway forward is to not buy studios, and they would resist buying them to a large degree for that very reason that they are just not like the up and down and the amount of money that is wasted on buying studios to then try and manage studios and have to integrate and restructure and change out, and the HR costs, like the nightmare that it is. If they have the opportunity to not have to deal with it, then they won't deal with it. Look at how they're partnering up. Again, they're not just reestablishing, they're doubling down on their partnerships with the big Japanese six. They're investing in those Japanese six. Make sure they get that pathway. They're talking this morning, talking earlier when D was on. We're running through, they're investing money into the production facilities to be able to ensure that the PlayStation 6 and onwards is able to be built and not cost a fortune and be subjected to all the turmoil they've had to deal with the PS5. The Sony's and PlayStation more specifically are showing that they are capable of learning and learning quickly. Concord was a disaster.
Yes.
And look what and Marathon came and they went, we better do some field testing. Marathon was the next one came off the rank. So they did some field testing with Marathon and they got the feedback, and the feedback was not glowing in any way, shape or form. What did they do? The choice was turn it off or we'll go back and try again. And they genuinely thought that they had something worth fighting for, so they went and did it. And now look what they've come up with. So they learned, go and test the live service stuff. They're doing it with Marvel's Tokon Fighter. Yeah, that's a second party engagement, but look at how much testing they're doing with their live service stuff now. They're showing that they're learning, and they've got to get it up to a testable and a playable point. If they'd have done it with Concord and done it properly, they would have gotten all the feedback that ended up killing the thing when it arrived. But, you know, they learn. And will they learn about investing in studios? Absolutely they will. They don't want to do this. When I first got into podcasting and I was on Woolly's show, one of the first conversations we had was partnerships will prevail. PlayStation doesn't want to spend money, doesn't want to basically piss money up the wall buying studios if they don't have to, because it's far easier for them to do partnerships because it costs them a lot less to directly invest in a game than to invest in the studios to then fiddle around trying to build the game.
Shout out to the great Jez7780 who's joining us. Jez, great to have you,
what's
buddy.
Up, guys?
Well, you know, Jez, what's good, my
so what's up, Jez? Shout out to also the D487. He says, "Hey, it's Wooly." So shout out to Wooly and shout out to Jez, and the great David Faulkner who's with us. So Jez, you know, you're kind of coming in on the tail end of what we're talking about with Bluepoint Games closing, and we really kind of went all over. We're kind of like, you know, discussing some of the aspects of where Sony was to blame, some of the aspects where maybe Bluepoint has a little bit of this responsibility. Wondering where you are on this.
Oh, I roasted the hell out of them, man. This is so I'm pissed. So this is the thing. You know, the thing that bothered me so much, and I think it's not necessarily like the output of you know, of the, like what has like the fact that they closed studios, things like that, pivoting strategies. But the point that annoys me is how it went down. And I was highlighting earlier, like, you know, Bluepoint had Shadow of the Colossus in 2018.
That's right.
They had then Demon Souls on 2020, and then Sony comes along in this whole industry-wide acquisition horse crap. Anyway, I better go off, but this whole industry acquisition season when everybody got to buy everybody, and it was 2021. Sony went on some buying stuff, and then you had your Embracer, Microsoft. Everybody started buying everybody. They bought them in 2021. And then what's Bluepoint done since then? They got a game canceled in 2025.
Right.
Then that annoyed me is that, you know, Sony bought them and production ceased. Like they were pumping out a game every the 2 years. They had a remaster done, you know, and they could have just kept cooking, right? But they bought them in 2021 and all of a sudden everything froze. And then we find out they assigned them, or whoever assigned them, I don't know if they wanted to do it or whoever it was, a God of War live service game. And that's kind of stumped them, I guess, because that's not what they do. Like we thought they were coming in as the remaster studio and going to do remasters. And they were going to kind of, you know, do that kind of thing and bring back franchises that we missed. And that's what we thought. Then we find out last year that they had a God of War live service game. If I was in the break room with that person, they would get smacked in the face if somebody said that we're going to be giving Bluepoint our remaster studio. Let's give them a live service God of War.
Jez, we all know who the real villain of all of this is.
Jim
right?
Gordon Ramsay Ryan. That's who it is.
It's
an old man.
It's goddamn Microsoft buying all those studios.
You know what, Willie? You are right. The thing, blame it on Phil.
Securing Bluepoint because Phil Spencer was eyeing up Bluepoint. Phil Spencer was
eyeing up everybody.
And Ryan was like, "Quick, buy them! I don't want Phil to buy."
It wasn't just Microsoft too. It was Embracer, Tencent. Everybody was throwing money out, and these studios, I guess, were insecure and wanted to get that umbrella, that safety net. The problem is they sold their soul to these publisher devils, and now they were told or whatever. God of War live service game. So then we find out that they canceled that. Mooch, this is where it's escalating, right? So now we found out live service God of War has been given to them,
right?
And now we find out last year they canceled that. Bend is the next one. Bend over. I don't know. They're in trouble next thing, I'll say. But now you look at it and go, they give them the live service game, and then a whole last year they canceled it in January. 3 weeks. 5 days before they closed down Bluepoint, they go and announced God of War Trilogy Remastered. And they shut down the remaster studio, the studio that worked on God of War Collection, that HD collection.
Yeah.
They so you think the best approach here is taking Santa Monica and having Corey Balrog's team split into 3, one passion project, Corey Balrog's game, whatever the hell that is, and then TC saying we're starting real early in development. You got Bluepoint sitting there. Apparently, they were offering different proposals last year, and none of them were accepted, and that's why they shut them down. So, what drives me crazy is that somebody in my chat, I think it was the OA, Mr. from Brazil.
Yep, the OA. Yeah.
One of the things, it's like hiring a sushi chef and tell them that they're going to make hot dogs, and then once you own them, you say you make hot dogs, and then fire them for making poor hot dogs. And it's like, but he's a sushi chef. He doesn't work in that stuff. And that seems, what annoys me so much is we've seen this time and time again, these big publishers buying these studios, taking some IP, taking what they're known for, and these studios are not doing better under these publishers, under these people. They're not. They're either getting shut down, we're losing IP, we're losing franchises. Look at this. Violation went goodbye because Embracer didn't know what to do with them. The Tomb Raider's been handed around all over the place. We don't like all these studios. Look at what happened with with Microsoft and buying and buying Japan studio. Over in that, buying them, saying thank you for High Rush, and you're closed. And it's just so crazy.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing, though, Jez, and I see what you're saying. And Dave, I want David actually. You missed David's explanation earlier.
Oh yeah, I missed.
But
it.
I mean,
I'm ranting.
And I'll let David speak for himself in a second. But the one thing is, use the Hi-Fi Rush is a great example. That's a game where Microsoft didn't tell them to make didn't tell Tango to make that game, right? They made a game. It was a smash success. Everyone loved it. It was a darling. Got rated unbelievable. People were buying it on PC, Xbox. Then went to PlayStation, bought it over there, and they got let go. So my point is here's a scenario where you're right. They took somebody that was good at making. He was a dinner chef. And they had him making cakes, right? I get what you're saying. I get it, right? I understand. Like, hey, we can use a birthday cake. Yeah, but I was a 5-star restaurant chef in Manhattan. Don't worry about it. Happy birthday, Mooch. So my point being is that they literally had a situation that was handed to them. Then they got canceled. I think from what we're seeing in a couple of things that I'm reading right now behind the scenes is they asked, do you have anything coming down the pipe? Do you have anything what's next? And they were like, we don't. Either they didn't have anything or they had nothing concrete. That's yet to be found. Like I said, I'm looking forward to Bloomberg doing a little bit more research, or one of the other outlets doing some research.
Yeah, he just reported the closure on the thing.
Right, exactly.
So they're saying that they were
but I mean,
God of War.
So it's like I question both sides at this point. I know Bluepoint is absolutely talented. And I think, believe it or not, I'm also hearing that a lot of people are landing on their feet within PlayStation Studios. But that's again, this all needs to be reported. Hearsay means nothing.
I haven't seen anything since they announced it. I was been away. For the last 4 hours, 3 hours. So I don't know if they had new things to develop. But the thing is like, how do you announce God of War remake? I know Santa Monica wanted, like, you're just starting that, and it's just so crazy. Like, 3 days before you announced a remaster of a collection. Like, man, that would been Bluepoint's butter right there.
Right.
Like,
right.
Yeah, facts.
so weird.
And it's not even a remaster; it's a remake, and that's
The
what
remake, they did with Demon's
that's
Souls,
their creme de la creme, mate. They're spot on with that.
Boom. Like, it's just so crazy.
Well,
And considering how many remakes they made, Last of Us and all that stuff, and I just felt like they could have used them to their strengths because they've been relying on remakes for some time. That they had them all up in arms with this stupid God of War live service game. And I know what people are saying, like, oh, it's the Sony pivot. They just announced the Horizon Saturday morning cartoon game as a service game. So and then they got Marathon coming up in a few weeks. Like, they're not escaping. It's not like they shut down live service games. They're still making them. They just, certain ones made the cut and others they didn't. And Bluepoint and Ben's didn't make the cut. And Project London and Studio London didn't make the cut. They shut them down after they ate Jim Ryan's cookies. They shut them down. They were working on a live service game. They shut Concord down. Fire Sprite, Fire whoever. And I said I was making a joke on my thing about Haven Studios, man.
Yeah.
Did they forget Jade Raymond? They don't have a boss right now. They got Jade Raymond left,
Right.
and they got a bunch of people probably making Dunkin' Donut orders for the last year. What's going on with Haven?
Right, Haven's another one where exactly. So these teams. So here's the thing. So there's different scenarios for each of them, right? It's not just easy as this is this and this is that. So you have Haven, right? Haven had a game. They saw the game that they were making. They invested in it. Now we all don't. A lot of people really.
He thought that was a good idea. It doesn't look appealing at all.
No. I listen, Wooly. I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not a big. But the Haven. I'm looking forward to Marathon. I'm not so very excited for what Haven's coming out with. But my point being is that
I just don't get it.
I don't get it either. But the point is that they're going to get to ride this out because the game's almost out. Now, if the game doesn't work, they'll cancel it like they canceled Concord, right? This is what we're hearing. Guys, I put it in the DM for Twitter. Take a look at it. Jez, I sent it to you too, separately too. I don't know but just read what I was telling you, and that came from, I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's Reddit. I don't know what it is. So if you look at it, they went to Bluepoint, and they're saying that they asked, what do you have coming down the pipe? If you don't have anything coming down the pipe, right, or nothing to show them, that's where decisions were made at that point, or at the near future after that meeting. When I'm saying you, Haven Studios, which I don't think is going to be very successful. I don't think that game's going to make it. I don't know if Fair Games is going to come out or it's not even going to come out. But right now they're still alive because they're like, well, the game's close. You know what I mean? That probably within 12 months that game's going to come out, maybe 6 months.
Right. Yeah.
Let me ask you this, right?
Yeah.
Here. This thing says, I love Bluepoint. This is from Shinobi thing. I love Bluepoint.
Yeah, from Shinobi. Yeah.
Sad. Though the simple answer is the team didn't have a product after almost 6 years. They had their product canceled on them in January. That they got when they were purchased in 2021.
That's right. That's the live action game. Yeah.
The live action. So I guess it wasn't up to their standards, but also the thing was that Sony was making a pivot in live service games, and they were just shutting them down. But they greenlit all of them to begin with. That they made. Studio Bend has not put out a game since 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you want to shut down people that haven't done something in 6 years? Hey, Naughty Dog! Hey, Naughty Dog! Neil Druckmann, stop making goddamn HBO specials.
Yeah, but see, Naughty Dog,
not a movie star.
Naughty,
Get off the red carpet.
But like I was saying with Naughty Dog, kind of gets they get that pass though because when they went to go look.
Balrog, where you been?
Well, yeah, but you're talking about it's not Cory Balrog, it's Santa Monica studio, right? Sony Santa Monica. So Sony Santa Monica had
6 years.
Yeah, but they had Ragnarok, right? So my point being is like. Everyone said this in the chat earlier, so a bit of this is me repeating myself. But like when you say Naughty Dog,
what you been doing?
Now that's
6 years.
Yeah, Media Molecule. I agree, but when you said Naughty Dog, hear me out real quick, Jez. Naughty Dog was making Factions 2 or whatever they were going to call it, right? When that got canned, they're like, so what do you got for me? And they're like, here's Intergalactic. All right, now for us as far as consumers, that sucks because you're like, well, I'm waiting. I agree with you. That sucks. But they had something. When this one got canceled, they're like, what do you got for me? And they're like, you know what I mean? So what I'm saying to you, that's what that Shinobi message is saying.
The game that they were going to make was not going to make money that a Naughty Dog would give. So that's why they get rid of them. But it's just strange that they said, well, they haven't produced anything in 6 years. And they got a lot of studios out there that are still working on stuff. And the fact that whatever got canceled. But what's so strange, though, Mooch, is like, how do they cancel Studio Ben's service game and a Bluepoint? It was like in the same article at the same time. It was a pivot within the company. I don't know if they were kind of assessing where all these service games were going to be, and then they said, hey, these look like we could go ahead with these, but these didn't make the cut, so cancel them, come up with something new. That could have been the call, but
I am half expecting XDev to become a creative studio.
Dude, they've been cooking.
Yeah, because I said this on I said this on Twitter before I left a while back that they're working on they'll be working on their own game and releasing their own game because they've got so much experience now in game development. It's crazy, but they're mostly just the backbone of studios. But it's time that they actually be their own established creative studio with their own IP. And I do see that happening. And if that is the case, then all that talent from Bluepoint will go very handy, very, very handy.
Yeah, and I said that to my chat as well. Like, if this kind of pivots into like, oh, they partnered with like more studios and now they're doing more of these partnerships and stuff like that, then we could say like, okay, so that was. Bluepoint had to fall for this thing to run, you know what I mean? But as of right now, all we're seeing is that, even reading that Herman Holtz PR fiasco talking about how the industry is hard, we're not growing, it sounded like a Phil Spencer template. And it was just like, oh yeah, and we're shutting down Bluepoint. It's like, whoa, like that just came out of the blue. Like, it was just like,
it really was.
Yeah, we're shutting them down. It's like, whoa, like okay, like times are tough, and you just showed like you have 92 million PlayStations out there. You're still tracking with the PlayStation 4. Like, what's this? Woe is me. You're still making some damn good money. What do you mean things getting hard? And you guys made the decision. Your management made a decision to go with this live service route.
That's right.
When it wasn't proven.
That's where Sony is 100% to blame. They went with that structure. That structure failed them, right?
How they go far so many games.
They're
I
looking.
Can't believe it.
And it's funny. Shout out to, I think this was Eric the producer. I know Eric the producer is listening. What did he say here? He said something. These numbers are. This is Eric the producer, guys. Okay, he doesn't work for a big company. He says 50% of Sony's revenues come from 10 live service games. This is why they want their own. PlayStation wants to get that one. They really wanted to hit that mark, but I'll tell you something. That strategy failed. I mean, we'll find out. But I don't even. I think Marathon will still be a moderate success. I don't think it's going to hit Arc Raiders numbers. But I'll tell you right now, they want to have that one big game, right? They wanted their Fortnite. They're not going to get that Fortnite. Microsoft went out and bought.
They had it with the Last of Us factions too, which they closed.
Well, listen. Well, here's the thing, Wooly.
Have been
yes, it would have.
Well, I'm right there with you because I'm a fan of that, but I don't know if it would have struck.
Mooch. Look what Arc Raiders achieved. Arc Raiders, an unknown IP. Can you imagine what The Last of Us factions, which Arc Raiders is highly inspired by, right? What that game would have achieved?
Yeah, but completely.
Mate, I swear. You would have seen Dr. Disrespect on a freaking PlayStation 5 or whoever else. You would have seen Burnt Peanut with his DualSense controller. Mate, I swear down,
yeah, you would have been the horde. You have all zombies roaming around. Oh man,
what do you got, David?
A couple of things. I do need to go shortly, but I'll just on that last point. Whose decision was it to not put factions out? Because remember, it was playable and it was ready to go.
Well, they say it's
It was a studio decision.
It was a studio.
So they chose to not put factions out because they wanted to continue on with a single player point. Now,
they wanted to continue with the TV show, Dave. TV show
at any stage,
season 2,
exactly. And then we also saw how that marriage worked out. At the end of the day, Sony's senior management could have said stick it. You're sending it out to market.
Yep,
it's in the pipeline and it's happening, but they didn't. And because Naughty Dog had other things available and it was showing, because we don't see behind the scenes, these milestones that I keep talking about, they're showing that they're achieving milestones to the quality level and to the production level that they're being asked to achieve to show these games as in progression. They did it with Ghost of Yotei, Housemarque's capable of doing it, Sucker Punch is capable of doing it, Insomniac's capable of doing it. there's plenty of them that are capable of doing it.
Mhm.
But the studios that aren't doing it, it's not like they get a one chance to do it and it's the end of it. They get multiple chances to hit these things on these projects, and when they consistently fail to do it, they're done. Now, it might be the studio heads get replaced if there is something there that's worth pursuing and investing in,
Mhm.
or it's like with Haven. Clearly, someone at Sony Productions thinks that that is worth continuing to invest money on. Now, whether it actually lands or not, that's not the point at this stage. But Jade got sent. They put it back. Try again. See how you go. And if it doesn't work at the next time they get to that milestone, they'll kill it dead in the water. And if they got nothing else in the pipeline or anything creative to suggest, the studio's finished. That's the end of it. End of story. That's how they've been for 30 years.
Yeah.
And it's no different now to what it was back then. There was a couple of things I just wanted to touch on with the just to cap this off with the Bluepoint thing before I go. Bluepoint was very much keen to shift away from doing remasters and remakes, and their vision statement on their website even suggests as much. That they are PlayStation studio, Bluepoint Games is established, has grown in a team of 80 people, and that they've always able to push the limits and surpass expectations. Our latest project will be the most ambitious in our history, kind of challenge that inspires most talented developers. Clearly, they didn't meet their own
God of War
expectations,
multiplayer.
let alone the rest of them. Multiplayer piece, and yeah, I hear what you're saying, Jez, and I completely agree to a large point that it was pursued in a method that probably wasn't the most sensible way of doing it. Some of them are going to land and be okay, and some of them aren't going to land. But they knew what the risk was. It's not like they shortcutted the funding for it. They found additional funding to pour into it and chewed into their profit margins for the better part of half a decade to try that method. That's ultimately what Jim Ryan's outward legacy
What
is.
a disaster, man! That Jim Ryan
Destroyed a profit margin to have a crack at something. Did it work? Well, not really. But it's not like they got 0 games out of that methodology, and some didn't.
Well, they got
make it,
0
but
games out of Bluepoint from buying them. Like that was the worst investment there. They just wasted money. They bought them in 21
Exactly.
and did nothing.
Yeah.
At the time when they bought them, would you have backed Bluepoint in with Demon's Souls' quality in the game before that? You'd have backed them in to do remakes up to wazoo. And
I would have said do
smashed it out
Demon
of the
Souls
park.
too while we figure out what you're gonna do here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the studio gets in and says, "Hey, we don't want to be the remake and remaster studio anymore. We want to try our own thing." It's
Yeah,
like,
they
well,
really.
But the God of War
Fuck.
multiplayer really is not their own thing. Like that's the thing. Like we already saw with Ascension. Like that was not the highlight of God of War. And what kills me about what Sony's strategy is that I can't believe that they went so hard and deep on this stuff. Like we found that Spider-Man multiplayer they wanted to do. Like they really hoard out. They did exactly what you're not supposed to do. And they basically took franchises that people are familiar with in single player and things like that and saying, oh, yeah, we could turn anything into a service. And it's like, what? To sell bitch-ass skins? Like, cut it out. Like, what would God of War service? Oh, I could buy different armors for all my Kratoses running around, the blue one, the red one. Like, it's just so idiotic and so just naive of Jim Ryan or whoever the hell made this decision back in 2020.
I bet it was the MOBA where you got Kratos and Freya and Atreus fighting.
Who the hell knows? I think it's the stupidest.
A lot of
they took
the decisions,
their studio's bread and butter,
Yeah.
and they said, "Guess what, guys? We're going to flip everything now at the generation and say, give everybody service games with the franchises that we have." And they thought that was a good idea. Jim Ryan probably had one foot in the insane asylum where he is now with his pudding.
I do think that what Bulky was saying though is a very good point. That here's Bluepoint doing incredible work with their trident. They were considered the very best in the industry as look at that, me saying were past tense already. Flipping heck. Oh mate, heartbreaking. But they were the best in the industry, and the moment Sony bought them, because they are the best in the industry at what they do, they suddenly changed tactic and go, we want to make a live service game. And it's like, bro. Oh.
Exactly. And that doesn't sound ambitious. Like, I don't know what maybe it was a God open world. I have no clue, but like, it's amazing too that Demon Souls was so good at launch too. It was very optimized. Like, they had, like, it was great. It was like one of the best launch titles that they had for that. And it was
still one of the best PS5 games still.
It was crazy. And they could do that, and then Shadow of the Colossus, what they did with that game. Like, I just like they pumped those out in 4 years, and then all of a sudden you buy them, and you have a stalemate because you guys made such bad decisions. Like, I just, it's just and I said this word live service rears its head and has bad news behind it. It's getting like that loot box. Like, as soon as we heard loot boxes, we're like, that sucks. We hear live service, and we're really just it goes with a black cloud.
Go ahead, David.
Agreed.
Sorry,
agreed. Sorry. I'll just make this really quickly, and I don't mean to say it and run out, but I do have to go to another meeting. I understand what you're saying, Jez, and I am there with you 100%. A lot of these decisions, they just didn't make sense, and they were poor ideas that shouldn't. If they ever got off the cutting room, off the first whiteboard brainstorm session, they should have been knocked on the head before they even made it to a studio. However, they killed it 18 months ago. What have they done in the last 18 months when they still had a remake team working on, they had a team working on their own IP and a remake in play, and then they killed their own IP off to focus on the remake for 12 months. So something's going on here where they've tried to go back to their bread and butter and they haven't been able to do it.
Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of people. That's what I'm saying. Is a lot of people we're missing stuff here, and a lot of people are just immediately saying, Sony is the fully blame here. Listen, Sony right now with everything that we're being presented with looks pretty bad. But like when you come down to it, and David breaking down the timelines and what they were working on, and after it was canceled, what have you done for me lately? I say it all the time. You know what I mean? When we talk about sports, Jez, right? We talk about it all the time. We're Giants fans, and 2007, 2011 was fantastic years for us. And we're like, oh, sky's the limit. We're never going to lose. We haven't, I think we went 3-31 recently. Like,
it's been horrible.
It's been horrible. So the whole point of the matter is that, like, that's the thing. I think when it comes down to it, this team was very, very talented. But what have you done for me lately? And if they didn't have anything, that's what I'm saying. I'm hoping that we get some more reports that come out. And usually, like I said, I keep picking on Bloomberg because they usually do a lot of digging. They do a lot of great reporting.
Dry as the Mothman. He figures all the bad.
Oh, he's you know what I mean? He's on the job. So he's out there. David, I know you said you had to leave, David. I want to give you a proper exit. Thank you for joining us, David. Your insights always just great to listen to. Love having you on the show. Let people know where they can find you, David. Looking forward to having you back on soon.
Yeah, you can find me poking around a few different podcasts, but on Twitter at Forky87, and hopefully back here in the not too distant future. But thanks for having me. Great to chat. Good to chat to yourself, Mooch, Jez, Woolley.
See you, man.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it, David.
Love
Thank you,
bro.
See you, man.
Love you, man.
You too,
so shout out to David. Outstanding to have him here. The super.
I told you, Mooch.
Yeah.
He always brings that wet slap in the face that people need. With
David,
that wonderful thing called.
Well, that's
context.
it. Like that's why we call it CrossFire, not Kumbaya. It's nice to have a difference of opinion. Everyone's just like saying it's just one thing. It's like, okay, I get that. But is there any more to it? There's generally another side to the story, right? So we don't have all those pieces. They're starting to come out in like tweets and I heard, which is that's nothing. We actually need some real reporting. So hopefully someone can report on that and we'll follow up on this. Shout out to the Super Hemi. He says, I think Sony should bring back the you're not ready marketing and bring back more demos of little snippets of games from developers PS1. 2026, let developers do the same thing and let players greenlight games. Shout out to the Super Hemi. I appreciate that.
That's right.
Shout out to Glinzer as well. He says, ROG Xbox Ally X up $200 in Japan. It sells there? Glinzer, I don't know, buddy. I really don't know. I know it's not selling here. Babor says, Babor, I love how you censored yourself. He says here, pouring out the games to Pirate Bay Steam is an issue. After a while, people have a library of pirated PlayStation Studios games outside their store. Well, listen, Babor, I'll tell you something right now. That's something where I think I'm going to agree with Jez. Jez, maybe you'll ride along with this one, Jez. Like, PlayStation going ahead and putting their games on PC, I wonder if that's going to slow down as part of this new business model that they're doing. And that's the other thing. You had Herman, and I don't remember who's co-leading, who's co-CEO. Some people are saying he's
the real CEO is that the hardware guy. I don't know his name.
I don't know his name, but that general, he's the real CEO.
Niku.
Yes, he's the real CEO, by the way. And second of all, he's the one. They are making a change, but you can't. It's like the Titanic, guys. You can't just turn the ship when you see an iceberg. this is a situation where if Sony is, and we'll see, we don't know, if they are trying to turn the ship from the Jim Ryan era, which I think they are, it doesn't happen overnight. Some of the acquisitions that they made are going to falter. We're going to see that happen. You're going to see things like Concord happen. You're going to see things like Fair Games come out and maybe not work out. We're going to find out, in air quotes, what goes on with Marathon this upcoming Thursday when they do the server slam. I know a lot of you guys are going to be out there. I'll be out there. We're going to be streaming that. That's going to be a lot of fun. Good or bad, it's gonna be a lot of discussion. You know what I mean? one of the way or the other. We're gonna find out.
Either way, it's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. Now, Jez, real quick, I wanted to ask you as we kind of switch over subjects. I thought I saw you streaming. I love when Jez, the Gaming Grindhouse, I love when he does his game streams. Did you stream Sons of Sparta?
Yes, I did.
Okay, I thought you did, and I said, you know what? I want to discuss this with him. I kind of wanted to move on to that. There's been a lot of controversy on Sons of Sparta, right? God of War, Sons of Sparta.
Oh, yeah.
And, shout out to Colin Moriarty and Dustin and the guys over there at Sacred Symbols. They did a phenomenal interview with Jaffe. It was fantastic. Very entertaining, right? It was a great interview, though. Great back and forth. But no, what I wanted to ask you was, Jaffe's been very open on what his feelings are about that. And, he is the original creator, developer. And so he's got some problems with just the game itself, right? Not just the story and the snap, but the game itself. What were your thoughts on A, the gameplay, B, the story, and for a Metroidvania, was it satisfying enough now that you have Ori and you have Silk Song and you have they were even using Guacamelee as an example. When you have those types of games out there, how did this game stack up? Did the God of War name carry you through the threshold and hold you there and you'd be like, I love this. I'm absolutely adoring my time with this game?
So when I first saw it at the show, it didn't really impress me. Like when they showed it, I'm like, "Oh, that looks like it," because they went real retro with it. When I first saw it, I was like, "Well, I wasn't feeling it." I was like, "Wow," because it kind of reminded me. It has that animation style similar to like the Fire Pro Wrestling remake that came out on PlayStation 4. Like it has these moving cell shaded stuff. Like it's not cell shaded, but there's like these moving pixels in the character, so it looks like they're breathing or moving. Like it's definitely this design that they went with. So I wasn't really impressed with it. But then I was like, let me give it a chance because, it is God of War. It's part of the story.
Don't knock it till you try it, Jez.
Yep, exactly. I do think that it was priced probably a little higher. Like I think it should have been more of a $20.
Yeah, $20 I'm hearing, yeah.
So it's 30. So I got it. And, I say, like, I like the story of it. I like that Kratos is speaking to his daughter and speaking about when he was young and things like that and talking about the things. I do like there's still gore in it. Like, you could do like glory kills to people so you get that kind of animated blood and things like that. I do think that it's much more forgiving than those kind of Metroidvania games. Like it's not when you die, if you meet a boss, you go into a room and stuff. If you die, it's not like you have to teleport to where you last saved. Like they'll make you kind of get into the screen before so you could jump in and finish the fight if you had a boss fight, which is, I like that stuff. I know people think like, oh, that's easy and stuff like that. I like that. I don't like restarting, losing, have to find my soul and then grab it and then get my stuff back. That shit annoys me. I'm sorry. That's who I am.
Go find my soul.
That shit annoys me.
People conflate difficulty with time.
You can.
Time.
And I did the middle one.
Wasting time backtracking because you died. It doesn't make a game harder. It just makes the game longer.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of
so
that
you're
stuff.
You're not I only interrupted you because
like
literally the game I have on screen is Neo, where you have to go find your soul. But go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta go find all the stuff that you lost or whatever like that.
Yes.
So there is a leveling up where you get more like different abilities and you have your different so your combat does evolve over time. They give you pretty much 3 hours in, you get like 3 different types of weapons. To kind of unlock other areas of the map. So it definitely feeds you. And there's a lot of dialogue in it. Now, what I heard, I don't know if somebody in my chat said it or something like that. Like they basically took it back to put voiceovers in the game because initially if it didn't have voiceover. I don't know if that's true or not. But yeah, if it didn't have voiceover, I think the voices, even though the voice acting is not super great, it's telling a story, and there is a lot of it. Like you get a lot of kind of story in between the things, which keeps you going. So it's not like go on this journey and go run around mazes for the next half hour without any kind of progression or like what's going on with the story and things like that. So I thought it was pretty good. I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. Again, comparing it to other ones, obviously other games do it a lot better, look a lot better than this one. So like, yeah, it's not a super looker. Like it definitely has its style.
Yeah.
I like the Fire Pro Wrestling, I said. So like, visually appealing, it definitely looks a little bit, and I can see where Jaffe comes in the same about, is it really God of War? Because when you hear Kratos, when you hear the voice and him talking, you're like, oh yeah, this is God of War, because it doesn't, it feels like more of like just like you're running around as Sparta. Like it would be awesome if it was 300 the game, and I'm running as Gerard Butler.
Yes,
you know what I mean, kicking people down holes. That was fun.
The less interesting Hercules from PS1.
Yes, it's like pre-Hercules before he gets his powers. Like I'm like, and I think that's where I think a lot of the kind of like, okay, we want to play a God of War like that, but I want the blades. I want the blades. I want him fighting gods and stuff. Like I want that God of War. Like this is sort of like, before he has powers, like he's just swinging. He's a Spartan, so not a Halo Spartan, but he's a Spartan. So it's sort of like the pre-powers. It's like playing, So for what it is, it's definitely not the God of War that you're like, is this God of War? But when you hear Kratos telling his daughter, that kind of pulls you back in. For me, and that's where the story.
So when you say Kratos in that respect, though, you're talking about TC and is the voice actor in that, right?
I think it is. It doesn't sound like him.
I don't know. I thought he had I thought he definitely had a cameo in this game.
That one, or somebody mimicked his voice.
It does sound like him, in my opinion. It does sound like TC Carson. It does.
I thought it was somebody else. Yeah, it's. I don't know. Somebody in chat could say, but it does sound like him. It doesn't sound. I don't know if it's the way the voice capture was, but it doesn't sound.
He's just older, mate.
Kratos.
He's older.
He's old. Well, his ghost or something. She's talking to his shield, like he's at a tree, and she's like hearing from him.
So I don't know. So you would advise people to pick it up, or would you advise a sale, or would you advise
I would say wait for sale.
Okay,
wait for sale on it. But if you like those kind of games, it's definitely it's a sound game. It's not that it's broken. It's not it's not that like it's not fun. Like the combat is good. It is definitely has that difficulty. You are fighting some random things though. Like again, that's where I think the God of War, like you have plants shooting like poison at you. Like you're just like, what's this in God of War? Like there is definitely some weird ass shit in the game. You're just like, is this from Zeus sending this down, or like why is there a plant just shooting like poison balls at me? Like is this Zeus's plant?
Why is there an aspect of Mario Brothers here?
There's some weird ass enemies that you're fighting in there. Like these bats are coming after you. Like they put some generic. They got some enemies in the thing. I have to say some of the stuff, and then you fight a Cyclops or something like that.
I do find it baffling.
There's some weird 2D tropes. You got piranha plants in there or some shit. I don't know what's going on.
I do agree with a lot of what Jaffe was saying, and I'll be honest, because like looking at games like Blasphemous and other side scrollers that do Metroidvania style games so well. The grittiness, the blood, the God of Warness is in those games far more than this game. And it's like, what was Sony Santa Monica thinking? Like, who's this game for? Kids? Well, who's God of War for? Not for kids. So why are you making a God of War game for kids?
But there's blood and stuff in it. Like he's cutting off bodies. Like he's hitting and killing people. Like it's not friendly.
Right.
Well, fair. There is, but it just seems a little bit more like reserved. But then I'm also confused. Like, what is Kratos not the God Killer Kratos in this game? And if not, why is he still killing gods? Why is he still killing monsters and super powerful beasts? Like he's just a Spartan. It
opens with you fighting a Cyclops. Like you and your brother fighting a Cyclops and stuff. And then the other thing too is that the co-op aspect is not unlocked until New Game Plus, so you can't play co-op until you beat the game.
That's I think that's a mistake.
Strange.
That's a mistake.
Co-op.
Right. That is. So what would you say? Just real quick. So the other thing that Colin was talking about that he gave it a big downgrade for was the fact that the D-pad was not accessible. You had to use the left analog stick to control.
I didn't touch the D-pad on that. I've been using this. I didn't even know that. I didn't
No,
touch
you
the
can't.
D-pad,
It's not. No, the D-pad has other functions, I guess, and that was one of the reasons I think he got back from the studio or something like that, or he heard back. Is they didn't utilize the D-pad because they used it for other functions. And he's like,
oh
listen,
yeah, the switch out weapons.
the functions.
Switch out your abilities,
yeah, he's like, come on. He's like, you kind of have to have that option in that Metroidvania space right now. So I think that's interesting. So you do have to play. How many playthroughs to get the platinum, Jez? Have you rationalized that?
Platinum chasing. I have no. First off, I didn't see a lot of trophies pop as I was playing for about 3 hours or so. I didn't see too many of them. Like maybe in the beginning, there was like after you finish a set, I must have got 3 trophies. So they don't. They don't pop as much. And again, it's not real super pretty like an Ori or somewhere you just like all these new areas you go to. Like it has that pixelated look, like it has a distinct look on it. And I agree, like in some aspects of it, it is like what is this? And when I heard the words passion project, I'm like, the old
passion project.
It is. But I say, it is a competent game. Like I'm not gonna say it's trash or something like that, but it definitely has a question mark on what it's like God of War, but it is God of War, and when Kratos talks, like that kind of brings you back in. But like the enemy and weird stuff that's going on in Sparta, it seems like it's grounded. Everybody in the town is normal, and then you go out there and there are some weird ass enemies that you're fighting, and you're just like, who are these people? What they are? Like you're not fighting Spartans.
No, right.
Monsters.
So Arcade says Anthony Del Rios voices young Kratos and Son of Sparta. TC does the narration. So, okay.
He does the narration, so it is him. Yeah,
thank you, Arcade. I appreciate that. Well, here's Satanist has something to say here. He says, I platinum Sons of Sparta. By the way, Satanist in the chat, let me know. Is it 2 playthroughs? Is it more than 2 to get the platinum? I'm just curious. And what was your runtime? He says, I platinum Sons of Sparta. He says, it's dope. He says, Jaffe is a salty burnout who ruined his career, ain't done jack in 20 years, and just feels some type of way. Listen, the thing is about it is, I think if you go and listen to, I think Jaffe also did something on his channel. You can go over and check it out there. But what I saw on Colin's interview with him and Dustin's was he was fairly critical in areas that he discussed gameplay, he discussed the story. He discussed it just didn't feel like you were. And actually, Jez just kind of said it, even though he's enjoying it. Jez, you just said a moment ago something very similar to what Jaffe was saying. And I'm paraphrasing both of you, by the way. So don't, this is not a quote. He said it just doesn't feel like you're Kratos. You know what I mean? It didn't feel like you were, you're supposed to be playing, like Kratos should be as a young Kratos of a certain type of way, right? Feel a certain type of way, have that certain type of anger. I think from what he said, he didn't feel that, which takes it away from the God of War name, right? Is that something that you would ride along with, Jez, or no? You were like, you look past it? Well,
as of now, from a few hours in, like the Kratos voice and him telling the story to his daughter and stuff, that kind of that narration as you're playing, that makes you get pulled in there. But then when that goes away, you're not real. It's not the Kratos that and again, it's a prequel, so like you gotta
right.
It's like, and it would be interesting if they kind of present it as like this is how he dies, or he like this leads to that pivotal point of the beginning of God of War.
Right, that
would be pretty awesome. Then I think a lot more people would hang in there, but I don't know, and Sadist probably might know. Like I don't know if it goes that far. Like, or is it just him and his brother, and then something happens to his brother, and then he goes crazy? I don't know how much it ends with the beginning of God of War, because if it just kind of ends as like this chapter of him and his brother, and that other part is missing, I don't know.
Well, he says here,
if it's built into that.
Satnus did answer me. He says this is shocking. I was not expecting this number. He says took me 34 hours to beat it. 10 more hours.
It's a big game, I heard. It's a
10 more hours to finish 100%ing it. So he's at 40, roughly just round up here. 45 hours to get the platinum.
Slept and eaten for 3 days.
That's a lot. Wooly, that's a lot of gameplay though for $30. Was it $30 or $40?
There's a big skill tree for each of your weapons and stuff like that. There is there definitely is a skill tree in that, and and that's what you do. You cash in the stuff that you're killing with, and then you could upgrade yourself in the skill tree, and then you could upgrade each of your weapons. You could put different handles on it, similar to God of War. Like the menus look exactly like Ragnarok and God of War 2018.
Okay.
When you're upgrading your weapons and stuff, like you could add different spear parts on. You could add different, the different grips and things like that to get them for your weapons and stuff like that. So that part pulls you in as well. But yeah, again. Is it the Kratos that you want? Like, it's like, okay, like I'm going to make a Halo game. Okay, good. You're going to play as John. No, John 1-7. No, John.
No,
like
just
John is a kid and he's playing in the fields.
John.
And he looks into space like you're
and
playing.
It's got
as
Halo
John,
on the
like,
front cover, and it's got this big Halo title, and you're like, yeah,
exactly. It says
Yeah.
Halo, and you're just running around as a kid, and it's like, when does he become Master Chief? It's like, oh, not in this game, son. Like, you're just gonna play John. Running around in the fields when he was born, and it's sort of like, okay,
Sons
like
of normal parents.
Right.
yeah, he's just normal. And then at the end, he gets kidnapped when he's sleeping, and that's how it ends. It's like,
And that's how it ends. You're like, oh, I wonder what happened. Oh, never mind. So shout out to Americo. Brian East, he says, friendly reminder. Jaffe had an issue with Metroid Dread because he couldn't figure out a false wall. So yeah, I saw that, and he talked about some of that stuff too. Like, yeah, I mean, I think a bit of it is, when you are the creator of something and then it goes into different lengths and it goes in different ways, and they take a character that, you wrote for and created and worked on so diligently, and then it gets changed in such a dramatic way. Listen, and again, I didn't see his take on his channel, so if he said something on his channel that you guys are referring to, I don't know. I only saw the Colin Moriarty and Dustin interview with him on Sacred Symbols, and I thought, he was pretty professional about it. There, he's a little bit upset, but yeah, there's just this big controversy about it. And then forget, it's not just about David Jaffe; it's also about the community. Like the community's kind of torn on it. I see a lot of people saying, "Listen, stop all the hate. I'm playing this game. It's a lot of fun. You guys should really pick it up and play it before you talk about it." And then I've seen other people be like,
Pony.
You're right,
Pony.
exactly. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I thought it was going to be about $20. The $30 doesn't make me run for the hills.
Yeah.
But listen, I just bought Neo. I'm playing through Neo 3 right now. I'm going to be dedicating my life to Neo 3 because this week and into next, because then when Marathon comes out, yeah, Marathon's going to have me for a long time, and so is RE9. So I've got Neo.
Right there with you,
right?
I'll be right there with you.
Neo 3, RE9, and Marathon. There's my lineup until probably Soros comes out. So, I mean, I think Crimson Desert's supposed to come out, but Crimson Desert's going to be that's like a 200-hour game.
Yo, we got Resident Evil 9.
Resident Evil 9, yeah, RE9. That's why I said RE9 is in.
That Leon,
what is it?
That Leon gameplay is outrageous, bro. Like he has gone full flipping nunchucks jujitsu. He is a badass, bro. It's crazy.
8 days if you're counting from New York, or if you're already over where Woolley is across the pond, or you're where David Faulkner is right now in Australia. They're at 7 days until RE9's released, which is that's gonna be fantastic.
Lovely,
fantastic. So shout the Mary
Crimson's in a month. Yeah, it's like in at the end of March.
Is it the end?
Is it? And I think it's like the 20th. 27th.
Okay, I thought. Okay, my fault. I thought it was the middle. I don't have that one.
Maybe it is the. Oh, maybe it's the 15th. Maybe it is the 15th.
I thought so, sure. But listen, because then
Mooch, that game looks friggin' insane.
It does look insane.
Everything in it. The guy was catapulting with a tree into a base. I'm like, yo, this game.
Every time we see these games that have everything, they have.
I know
performance issues like up the wazoo, and I mean bad.
I hope not.
I am dubious. I am a little dubious. I dare to hope and I dare to dream, but I don't dare to believe.
I agree, Woolley. I agree, man. Just take me away. Please do not have this game stuttering. I'm like, no.
Thank you, Mary. Shout out to Mary Wilcox. Mary says it's the 19th of March. Thank you, Mary. We'll split the uprights. There you are. Yeah. But yeah, nonetheless, that's going to be great. It's just we have a stacked spring, guys. And the reason we have a stacked spring and probably a great summer is because nobody wants to even think about releasing around GTA 6. So it's going to be front heavy this year, folks. It's going to be front end heavy.
August is crazy.
August is also going to be nuts. And September might be crazy, too. We got to find out when Wolverine's coming out.
sell your children, sell your spouse, remortgage your home, because August is going to
Yeah.
be nuts, guys.
Yeah, if you guys don't have a gaming cave or office or private room, now's the time to go build that, folks, because you're going to need it in 26 and 27, I guarantee
Or
it.
get a portal or something to remote stream.
Sell your pet dog that you don't like, but your
hide in
wife
the
bought
bathroom.
and loves.
You know, speaking of things, and Jez, the reason I bring this up is you're here. Dee was here earlier. You always cover a lot of tech stuff, not just gaming. You'll cover a bunch of stuff, but the Steam machines in gaming. We were supposed to hear about release dates on that. We haven't heard anything about that yet.
Well, they delayed it. I thought they said it's still coming out, but they delayed it a few months. So.
But that's curious, though, isn't it?
Because of the RAM.
Crimson Desert. They saw Crimson Desert and thought, "Yeah, we're gonna have to."
Steam machine will blow up.
This is not going to work here, right? So let's.
I don't know if it's the RAMs. This whole RAM stuff is I don't know how many people are just glazing on it, saying it's gonna doom. It's gonna, and I'm sure it's gonna impact a lot of things, but. I'm just hoping this AI bubble pops because I'm sick of this AI stuff, and it's looking like it's on shaky ground right now. With everybody, and you can see AMD, they're all kind of trying to throw out things like AMD prematurely talking about chips for the Xbox and stuff like that because they're all they're scrambling right now to keep the investors happy because all the promises they made are not coming to fruition. So they got to kind of tease more stuff down the line. They got no, we're still good, and everybody's in a panic. So everybody's just kind of running around, chicken out heads, yelling about AI because the money, they're like, whoa, we threw all this money out here. All right, so where is it? Yeah, about that.
I always thought that AI was basically a highly kind of volatile catalyst to speeding up inflation and depreciation and basically all the worst things for the economy because you've got a load of the higher ups holding on to the best AI kind of algorithms to make the most money. But what happens when money becomes worthless? So it's kind of like it's a vicious circle because they thought AI is going to make them all rich, but then what? If
because they got excited, people spending money and they're like, oh look, and look at what Microsoft's doing with AI is now OpenAI that they put all that money in. They're like, well, guess what? We're gonna have to start building our own now because this is not and because they can't control because they put money in, these other companies are taking their money and doing what they want with it, and now Microsoft trying to come in and control them, and they can't. So now they're like, well, we just got to do our own thing now, and it's too late for you guys, and they learned their lesson. Same thing they learned with Apple Store. You got rid of your Windows phone, and now you're trying to do this mobile strategy. You got to depend on Google and Apple to let you in the door, and they don't want to. And now you're crying. Well, you decided to shut down your ecosystem where you had full control. Now you don't.
Yeah.
So I'm just hoping they use it more creatively. Yeah. I just hope they use it more creatively for NPC interactions. And
I know.
If SOCOM remake, which Bluepoint were working on, that is now never releasing.
Sony said no.
Had squad mates with full AI integration, it would have been sick, bro. But my days, I'm just so sore about Bluepoint, man. I can't.
Well, let me ask you this before we go down the Bluepoint.
The warning for Media Molecule and Studio Bend.
Oh, absolutely.
Are they on the chopping block? Is this what Sony's doing?
Here's the thing.
The evaluation.
Here's the thing. If you're just going to go by, what have you done for me lately? Then the answer would be yes, Jez. Right. But the thing is, what we don't know is what are they working on behind the scenes. Bend hasn't put anything out in ages, right? So here's the thing. They've got to have something they're working on.
He denied Days Gone too, remember?
Yes. No, absolutely not.
Jason Belvin or whatever.
Well, let me ask you then, Jez. I'll ask you first to see what Woolie's thinking second. I think I might know what Woolie might say here, but Marathon, okay? Now, Arc Raiders is still doing what Arc Raiders does, rope in a ton of interested gamers daily, but whether it be on Twitch watching or concurrent players on Steam, PlayStation, Xbox. But hear me out. The number is declining a little bit. A little bit of that Arc Raiders honeymoon is tapering off a bit. Marathon comes out basically in 2 weeks, but of course we get the server slam this weekend, which means anyone that's even slightly interested is going to try it. Jez, Is this a good time for Marathon to be coming out? Does it have a shot? Do you think since the alpha released, whatever that was, 4 to 6 months ago, and here we are today, they've listened to enough of the audience to make that change and get people to kind of give this game a shot?
Well, I can say the initial reveals and stuff were definitely rough. I think they definitely took the feedback, what they were receiving from the alphas, and really the last few videos that they've put out have been really strong and got my interest in it, and I'm going to get it. But I really definitely I'm interested in playing it and, doing that Service Slam on it. I do think though, the Service Slam thing, it could be a golden opportunity, and it could be, something that could discourage people from getting the game. If they're like waiting to get into games and we're slamming the servers and people's experiences that they may not be so open to say, well, let me pay and jump into the game. So hopefully Bungie got it down.
That's a great point.
Their network, they developed the party system. So I'm confident that they're ready for this online, and it's going to be smooth. But you never know. They always say we weren't expecting all these people. But I do think, though, that it is coming out at a decent time. High God is nothing. Low God, that didn't do anything.
Yeah, that's gone.
So, it really is just the Art Creators crowd. And I think it's going to pull in a lot of people from Destiny. I think they even had some incentives that if you have Destiny to get Marathon, and I think that's their game plan, is to kind of pull those people. Hey, you like the gameplay of Destiny that you grinded on? This is gonna feel similar, but we've took it to the next level, and we made it in multiplayer where it's more of a competitive game. So then that's the one thing I've always said with Bungie is that they know gameplay. They know the shooting. That was always the best thing from Destiny.
That's right.
That's why people played it. It's the gameplay. They know that. The main thing is it gonna have the hooks and the kind of randomness that you would get in those kind of extraction games, like how Helldivers has and how Arc Raiders has. And I think they took a lot of feedback. I think Arc Raiders did probably help them a lot to see what people like that they could start putting in their game, like that open chat and, making sure that open mic and all that stuff, and even seeing the dead bodies there and the decaying, looting them. I think they definitely took some of those points there. So, and the thing is I don't think this is and this is for you, I don't think this is a this or that. I know time is competitive between games, but I do think that Marathon can coexist with an Arc Raiders.
That's right.
It's a first person with a third person. They're different types of games, different enough that they can gravitate their own audiences. It's not like we're doing over the shoulders, same thing. I think the first person extraction and Bungie gameplay is a good recipe that, if they know what they're doing, and they're really good with lore, they're really good with getting people engrossed in their IP and their stuff. But again, this is only multiplayer. They don't have a campaign to kind of introduce that. I keep saying, I don't know why these devs just go full multiplayer and don't do a campaign tutorial, at least an hour or so, to get you involved into the world, the story, the characters, the capabilities. Just do a 2 to 3 hour tutorial. Single player,
that's a great idea,
with a little bit of story, just something to
that's
get
a great idea.
Introduced to the game, instead of just dropping somebody in a world going, all right, you run there, you grab that, you get this, because people are gonna get shot in the head and they're like, this game sucks, and they turn it off, and it's like, but you didn't you didn't learn the game yet. And I just feel like they just abandoned the strength of a single player. You don't need a 12-hour story,
right?
But at least 4 hours in and 3 hours, some story elements, some cut scenes. Get people involved in the story, then let them jump into the multiplayer and experience it. But that was really my thing. I feel like they abandoned the power of a single player game.
So you know what? So Jez made a good point. Wooly, what do you think though? The one thing that I scratch my head, I see the sales pitch on bringing the Destiny players in. There's still a lot of people playing Destiny, believe it or not, and I don't know. The problem I have with that theory is I don't know. They may come over, but the reason people like Destiny is not just the gunplay. They like the lore. They do like the story that it has been built. And I don't know. Marathon does promise more lore than I think maybe an Arc Raiders will have as far as story. But I don't know,
mate. You can't create that kind of lore and story at that level of depth where it's just when it's pure PvE multiplayer. This game is built around rounds and matches. It's not built around raids and cooperative raids and ventures and patrols and all of that jazz. It's it's a completely different genre, completely different kettle of fish. So I think it's absolutely stupid to suggest that this has any appeal to Destiny fans for what the game brings, other than the first person perspective and the gun mechanics.
Yeah,
and the gun
that's what I
mechanics.
was talking about.
What I look, even like the vistas and the scope and the scale, jumping down 1,000-foot walls like you can in Destiny, all that jazz. None of that's there in this game. So like, it's gonna feel a lot smaller in scope and scale compared to Destiny, but I flipping love the atmosphere of what I've seen. I love those plastic chutes that you walk through, and the cracking of the hull of the ship and the atmosphere. It's a bit spooky at times, and it's one of those games where I could happily turn the hood off and just walk very slowly and use my eyes and ears and just listen carefully and use the voice proximity. It's got its own feel, its own atmosphere, and it's exactly what I said it would be. People had this idea that Arc Raiders has just killed Marathon, and it's like, well, no. If anything, Arc Raiders may have put Marathon on the map, because it's woken a lot of people up to the extraction shooter genre. Hunt Showdown is one of the highest quality masterpieces of first-person extraction shooting you can play, but nobody plays it. Why? Because people do not care about extraction shooters. Now there's a market for it. People are awake to it. People are woke to it. So hopefully there is room for both, and I have absolute confidence that there is room for both.
Willie, you make a great point, because since the how do I put this? The extraction shooter got the limelight with Arc. Now I'm hearing, when I watch some of the big streamers, they do talk about Hunt Showdown now. Now Hunt Showdown is a discussion piece. And you were talking about it ages ago. And you're right, nobody was really playing it. Now, I don't know. I mean, if anybody wants to look real quick, I'm in the middle of the show, but I wonder how it's doing as far, and I only go by viewership on Twitch. That's not the same as concurrent players on like a Steam. But I do think it's telling that a lot more people are talking about Hunt Showdown. So like that's a thing, right? That is a thing. I agree with you.
And it's great seeing all of these streamers learn a hard lesson to stop being pussies when it comes to, forgive my French, when it comes to extraction shooters, because you've had people like, well-known streamers kind of hate on Arc Raiders for being too unforgiving and difficult initially, but they got into it, they got used to it, they kind of gave their heads a wobble and finally started to enjoy it. And I think, Hunt Showdown, it is unforgiving, it is brutal, but man, those kills are so satisfying. And what I've noticed is extraction shooters all have the same trademark heavy weighty shooting. It needs that. Extraction shooters need that slower pace, that heavier gunplay to make fights tactical, where you retreat and heal. And they've also done that. I was watching Burnt Peanut playing Marathon just the other day. Yeah. And the gunplay has slowed down. The TTK is longer, and it needs to be, so that you can retreat and heal up and use your items and and plan and strategize. That's right. And that is what extraction shooting is all about. Even being able to run away and retreat if you feel like you're going to lose all your stuff because you're outgunned. Like there is room for that now. Whereas before, in the early demos, the TTK was way too quick, and it's like, Marathon is looking really good right now.
I agree with you. I think, and I love what you said. I said it a couple of weeks ago on the show, if not even longer. I said what Arc did was it opened the door for extraction shooters, right? And now you have a situation where Marathon comes out. I think it's perfectly timed. Now, if the game doesn't do well, that's on the game. But right now, you can't say, oh, well, it was an extraction shooter and people don't really play that. Right now, everybody's playing it right now. And, you also have to give Helldivers its flowers, too. Helldivers 2 did a great job. Of course, it was PvE, right? So it didn't have the PvP aspect of things. But at the same time, it legitimately was the entrance to people going, wow, I actually like the extraction shooter thought process, the way this game handles, right? So that started it, and then it went to Arc Raiders, and now there's an evolution here where I think they can make enough tweaks in the game where Marathon does stand on its own two legs and doesn't have to hold, it doesn't need the crutch, if you will, of Arc. But I think initially Arc helps tremendously, Wooly. You're 110% right.
Yeah, factual, mate. I do agree.
That's just one of those things. So I do agree with you guys there. Real quick, wanted to get your take on this. So you guys know, Jazz, you've been listening to Mooch for a long time. Will, you've been listening to Mooch for a long time. You guys know how
long have I been a member for?
Oh my God! Yeah, not only that, but you were listening to me before the membership, Wooly. And I'll tell you, one of the things
to do with the eagle.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, that's right, Chaz.
The bull,
lots of hair on the eagle. No, so you guys know I'm not a Battlefield fan, right? So Battlefield 6 Season 2 came out, right? And so, Jess, you're a Battlefield. You've been you stream.
I like Battlefield.
You do, right? Battlefield. That's great. No, I want you to. I actually want you to disagree with me. But the problem is that Season 2 came out and it didn't even move the needle. It didn't even move the needle.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't even know Season 2 came out.
That is absolutely even better. To prove my point.
Season 2, I know it was delayed, right? Wasn't it delayed?
It was delayed by a month. Yes, it was delayed a month. It was supposed to come out end of January. It came out February 17th.
I just jump into Battlefield and I just go into my modes and just play. I don't even do the red sack. I just do just destruction.
Well, red sack is completely.
Maps. I'm like, where are the maps? Did they add maps to Season 2?
Yes, there are. I don't know if there's maps or map. I think there may be two. Guys in the audience, please help me. I know there's definitely one new map. Listen, it's just the thing about it is this. Here's my talking point, and I'll bash Call of Duty too. You guys know I like Call of Duty, but here's the thing: I'll bash it. When it comes to Call of Duty, right? When we're talking domination, guys, we're talking about King of the Hill. You're talking Search and Destroy. You're talking in Battlefield. You're talking about Conquest. I'm not saying you guys know I like a good Call of Duty match. That's fine, right? But it goes. The criticism goes both ways. This isn't just a bash on Battlefield. Battlefield's not. This is probably one of the best Battlefields, period, and it's not retaining the audience. Call of Duty's Black Ops 7 is not holding their audience like past years. What is it they got to do, Jez, to get Battlefield, Call of Duty back to get? Because now look at Wooly just gave great examples of games and why Arc is exploded and why Marathon has a chance right now. We're not going to oversell it, but it has a chance. Battlefield Season 2 comes out. You like Battlefield? You didn't even know.
I'll tell you what they need to do. Exactly what I asked. They need new maps, new vehicles, new weapons, weather. Let's fight in the snow. Let's go fight in the beaches. We need new shit. And the problem is that they go release these free-to-play bullshit, drop in off the helicopter, and they hope people buy their season passes, whatever the hell they buy for their skins. Yeah. And that's what happened with the multiplayer. That pisses me off so much, man. We used to get 5-pack of maps come every month with new features, with new things, new abilities, one up in the other one. And ever since they gone to this free raw zone, red balls, whatever the hell they want, jumping in and this whole stupid battle royale shit, they get their money on the back end of all that other crap.
Yeah, but that battle royale is not holding up either, Jez.
No, it's not. Well, the thing is that guess what? I felt like everything slowed down once they said Red Sec is free, and I'm like, whoa, what happened to all the Battlefield?
Yeah,
stuff?
the Battlefield.
Exactly. You need a Season 2 should come right. If you want to do seasons, Season 2 should be 4 huge maps, 3 different biomes. We added snow that accumulates as you're fighting. We added avalanches coming down. We had new vehicles coming in, new weapons with these vehicles. We got a hook shot now. We got something where you have a grenade launcher or something like that blows up walls. Add new stuff to the game. That's how you keep people engaged and keep coming back. Instead, we added some friggin' black pants that have camo and blue and red. Please, purchase those, sir. Bullshit. I don't care. I didn't play with Barbie dolls growing up, bitches. I didn't come dressing up my characters. Ninja Turtles came with the goddamn.
We're not
they lost their clothes. You know what? I'm going to go on a rant now. I didn't play dressing up dolls when I grew up, man. My Ninja Turtles, my characters, they were removing clothes. I had them in their underwears fighting because their clothes would just like fall off when they're fighting. I wasn't dressing up shit. Stop with all this dressing up bullshit characters.
Yeah.
I don't want to play video game Barbie dolls. Make some content.
Yeah, I do just want to bounce off that point. I do just want to jump off that point, Jez.
Jesus, I'm sick of it.
That, you know, and
Look at
Mooch,
my
I'm not
guy
going to lie.
with the blue hat on. Fuck, get the hell out of here.
The moment RedSec launched, I felt betrayed. I was like, I could have just waited a couple of months, and I'd have had a free Battlefield game, because you've divided the player base fundamentally. You know, you've got all of the mechanics of Battlefield in RedSec, and it's free. And it's like, what was the thought process behind this? Because how does it differ from Call of Duty's Warzone? It really doesn't, apart from better destruction. And I just feel like it lost its identity, and it's trying to do too many things. And I think that, you know, we want bigger maps. What we didn't want was just a Warzone clone. We wanted the bigger maps. You know, the maps that, you know, the Dragon Risings, you know, the maps that Battlefield fans love, the sniper-thons, the perfect maps for hiding in you know, under a tree on a hill, you know, 900 meters away from your target, and just waiting patiently for them to get in that aeroplane to shoot them through the window. You know, like that's what Battlefield was, bro. And then, bro, it's not. Battlefield is not Battlefield. It's not. This Battlefield 6. They've just. I was hopeful for it, but they fundamentally failed in what they needed to do, and that's not divide the player base with a stupid free-to-play mode. That, yeah, it's impressive what they've done, but for goodness sake, like what's the point if there's a free? You're not going to buy Battlefield if there's a free Warzone clone with all of the mechanics.
Yeah,
you're not going to buy
and gunplay and they're desperately, and the problem I've always had with live service games, and I've said this time and time again, is although Fortnite is of great quality, it is not the quality that keeps people coming back, because every quality game on the same monotonous loop gets boring over time. It is the skins that people play with that keeps the people playing, because they want the V-Bucks to buy the skins, to show off the skins, and to continue to upgrade the character.
Exactly.
And yeah, there is a hook there. Yeah, the flex. There is a hook there, but every hook has its day. Whereas
it's game to stay in.
Right.
What Fortnite has done is it's invested all of its money in licensing, in getting licenses to really popular IPs, from K-pop Demon Hunters to, you know, Marvel, to everything you can think of is in Fortnite. Even Kratos is in Fortnite and does the boogie dance. For goodness sake, like, you know,
the Pink Pony Club girl they added.
Yeah, so then they threw in Darth Vader.
All the weird stuff going on.
Then they threw in racist Darth Vader, you know, with his AI voice. And,
they got
Kim
Kardashian in the game. Like, what are we doing here,
it's mad. It's mad. But basically, the point is this: is that they struck gold in longevity by not through
pop culture,
not through quality, but through pop culture and capturing FOMO and capturing FOMO through cosmetics. That is in itself not a benchmark of quality. But it is what a successful live service is built around. It's not built around the quality of the product. It's built around how long you can retain a player's attention.
Mooch, how much
and
you buy?
And it's addiction that fuels that. It's addiction, not the hook.
Yeah, I can't really, you know, in all honesty, I can't. You guys are spot on, but let's be honest. I've bought about probably 3. Well, don't forget. So there's been a couple of.
Yeah, you just play the game. You're not buying skin. Like
on which game though? Are you talking about?
In Call of Duty, you play Warzone a lot. Like, are you buying the skins?
I
know you bought
what
is it? The Walking Dead, right?
The Rick, the Rick one there, I definitely bought. I also
everybody got their
and
skin.
I probably have bought in the context of the last 3 years. You know what they call the black cell? When you get I've bought like 3 of those in the past 2 years or so. Like, but those are like $30 extra, right? But you get like the whole year, you get the whole row of the Battlefield skins. You get tokens. You get like all the stuff. Like, I don't mind it if I like that.
The next one,
but but I use those for like then for the next 3-4 months. And then if I want another one, I'll grab. Like, I don't always grab them, but I do. Like, here's the thing. And shout out to Blaze 4K. He said this to me a while ago when we were talking about Ark. You know, because we bought a few skins in Ark, and it's like, here's the thing. Like, you support the game. I like that game. I do like it. I do. I enjoy. I have a lot of my older friends that still play Call of Duty. Now, when I say Call of Duty, by the way, guys, I really don't mean the multiplayer. I play. If you ever see me on the multiplayer, it's because I'm leveling up my guns for the loadouts for Warzone. It's Warzone. We play Warzone, so I really enjoy that. I do really like Arc Raiders. Arc Raiders was $40. I think I've put an extra. I shit you guys not. I probably put in an extra $25, maybe 30 max. They gave us a lot of in-house tokens because of the server issues they were having when the game first came out, so they threw us like 500. And then one of the skins that they had in there, you guys will laugh at this, it's kind of how the Black Cell is. That's why I kind of like the Black Cell. Yes, it's $30. You get a lot of the skins you want, but they'll also kick you 1,100.
You gotta grind to unlock it, though, right? And it doesn't go away, though.
It does not. Well, what do you mean by it doesn't go away?
Like you have to do it in like 30 days or 40,
well, you have like 50 days, but I played enough to where like I'll unlock it.
Okay, but if you didn't, you don't get that stuff.
No, you do not. You won't get it all. No, you'll get it. You'll get about half of it through the Black Cell.
Gotcha.
If you were born 25 years later, Mooch, you would totally have been pulling on your on your mum's coke, saying, "Mum, can I have V-Bucks?"
Yes, that's correct. That is correct.
No, I know.
That is correct. That is correct.
With the V-Bucks, the skins, and now he does.
What do you want for Christmas, kids? What do you want for Christmas, kids? Do you want an iPad? Do you want a gaming PC? No, just V-Bucks, please.
$20. I want to unlock this new Spider-Man skin, and I'm like,
I mean, but like I say, I don't mind supporting the games that I really, really enjoy and I like. I don't think of that as a negative at all. Like, to me, that's fine. I don't like Fortnite. I don't play every once in a blue moon. If you jump on Fortnite, I'm not buying a Fortnite skin. I don't play that game, so it doesn't really matter. Apex Legends, I'm not buying anything in that game. I don't play that game. But again, you have to look at the value. The value of what I'm saying to you is also important too. Like, so far I've played. I just checked the other day. 210 hours I have on Arc Raiders. 210 hours. I've spent an extra $30 on the game. Like, that's not. I don't think for 210 hours. I'm at.
I bought some of those packs because I wanted the money to unlock those things. So that one game I did.
Which game, Jez?
You're right. When you got a lot of hours in it, and that's what you get on with the guys, and we're streaming it.
Like, I don't mind.
I can see again a skin, but see the Mooch. The problem that I have is that I feel that not every game needs that. Like, it only works in certain hook. Like, it's the gameplay and stuff. But I find these devs and stuff just think we have to do this in our game, and it's just like it doesn't work all the time.
It doesn't work all the time.
You got to get the hook of the gameplay, and it's and what happens is that a lot of the devs, or it seems like, is that they lean into like, hey, that's the golden goose, that's the way to do it. If we hit big, and they shy away from the content, the gameplay, which that should be the hook, not what skins or seasons coming out. It should be the content. And that was supposed to be the miracle, was that when they stopped charging us for map packs, it was supposed to be all map packs are free because now we're going to do season passes and skins. Well, guess what dried up? The maps, and the weapons, and the new features, and the gameplay elements, the evolution of the game dried up why they don't go for the skins.
Maps? You know why they don't go for maps though, Jez? It's for the exact reason that I said. It's they're aware that low key, a live service game is successful not by quality, but capturing the monetization through
That's why I don't like
through what do you call it? Showing off. What do you call it? As
flexing.
You flexing.
The kids say the flexing.
The hook isn't the quality of the game. The hook isn't the hook. The hook is the flex. And that's the problem with live service games, is that they're all they don't last without that key ingredient, and that key ingredient has to be extremely strong. Uncharted 4, you know how well that did as a multiplayer game, not in how much money it made, but how long it retained players. It retained players
now, man. I'd jump in.
It had an insane customization variety, and that is unfortunately and what in a live service game keeps people hooked, and that's why Fortnite have such a massive turnover of cosmetics and only update their map, once a generation. So it's unfortunately the case. That's why live service games are not something we should cheerlead, because ultimately you are not going to get more maps. They are not even secondary in importance. They are third or fourth in importance. They're all trying to give you the coolest skins. And they've tried that with the Battlefield community, and it doesn't work because we don't give two dry dog turds about that. What we want is good Battlefield maps.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So vehicles.
But you made a good point. You made a good point.
I'm sorry, Mooch. Where's the They have a whole water section.
Yeah.
In the single player where you're marching in with boats and stuff.
Yep.
Where's the water world map? Where's the water?
Yeah. Where is it?
I don't even know.
Well, no. And shout out to
water map with boats.
Well, I think it was Jacob. He mentions it up here in the chat. He says, because you were asking, is it they have one map now, one map coming later. So that's the thing. And like you said, listen, here's the thing. Okay, you buy the skins, whether it's in Ark or you buy them in Call of Duty, but they have the content still coming out. I would say Call of Duty pretty much a little bit closer to Battlefield in the sense of, hey, what have you done for me lately? Like I'm waiting. We have to wait now. I guess Blackout is coming out in either March or April. That's because we're still in Verdansk. We've been back in Verdansk for well over a year now, after the year we were in Verdansk back in 2020. So I'm a little Verdansk out.
You're still in Verdansk?
It went back because everyone wanted to go back.
Deal. They thought you were going to come back.
It did. Well, it worked. It worked, but it was there forever.
They pulled an Xbox 2020 where they give you gears again, but try and make it feel like a new game, like a new release.
So and now Blackout is the Blackout that came out with what was it? Black Ops 4?
Oh, you mean when they announced? When you say Blackout, that's not a season name. That's Blackout mode when they did the multiplayer only.
That was when they did when they were testing out the waters before Warzone came out. God. But now, of course, it'll be fully engulfed. Where when Blackout first came out, it was kind of bare bones. That is the new. That's the new stuff. That is the new stuff. So the old is new. So that's what Again, I'm not excited about that, but at least it's not Verdansk. Get me out of Verdansk.
Is the Blackout map? Oh my god. Is that the one that has the dam and stuff like that? It has the dam.
It had that big construction site, big 12. Yeah.
Oh god.
I'm really dating myself with that one in my.
You know what? All of this talks makes me want to go back to PUBG. I swear down. I'm seeing a lot.
PUBG Mobile, real PUBG.
Yeah. PUBG Mobile is the GOAT, bro. That's the real PUBG.
I know. That's all I know about PUBG Mobile. I heard.
It's funny how people aren't letting Dessinger off the leash about the $5,000 he spent on League of Legends.
Well, that's it. Well, yeah. So there's listen, and I'm not. I'll let Dessinger. I'll let Dessinger defend himself next week. But my $30 and probably, like I said, probably max of $200 max on Call of Duty over the years. Not near $5,000. I would, that's not gonna. And I still have to.
I don't talk about that thing. He's not here to defend himself.
I'm gonna
pays the money to remove clothes.
That's correct. That is correct. Hey, listen, as he wishes. It's his money. All right, guys. I'll listen to this. I kept these guys here for 3 hours. I want to say thank you. It's unfortunate. I'll have to reach out and talk to Nib and Detzinger. Couldn't make it tonight. Was hoping to really get into a couple of the conversations with those guys as well. But hopefully we'll be able to meet up next Thursday. Shout out to also BRAP. BRAP was going to try and do a half-hour pop, and he couldn't. And then also the great D-Batch. D wrote me. He goes, Mooch, I got to go. I was here for an hour. I got to go. I'll make it up to you. So shout out to the great D-Batch for coming on as well. But I want to say thanks as well to the great Jez. What do you got there? Jez 7780, the gaming grindhouse. Jez, listen. It really is. I gotta be honest with you. I always say I'll say your name sometimes when you're on the show too. I'm like, guys, go over and check out, because when you stream, I'll be like, I was watching Jez stream over on the Gaming Grindhouse. And when I go to say Gaming Grindhouse fast,
Grindhouse
never comes out smooth for me, and I'm trying my best.
I know. Well, then just say that the real Jez and not bootleg.
That's
Jez.
correct. The real one. You are the real one. That's correct.
Gaming is bootleg.
Bootleg.
That's how I distinct.
That's how we can tell the difference here.
I'm the real one. He's the bootleg.
Jez, great to have you, buddy, as always. Do what you're doing, man. Love the impromptu shows. Of course, you got your regular show on Monday nights, but you went live today. Like, when do you not? I don't know when he doesn't go live. I see him saying, hey, guys, Grindhouse tonight, right? And he's got the house with the fire on X. And then I'm looking at myself. I'm like, it's fucking Monday again. I'm like, wait, it's Friday. Jez is going live again.
I was going to go live on Tuesday.
Yes. Did you just F-bomb on your own show?
I did
F-bombed on your own show.
I did F-bomb. Well, I think you're allowed an F-bomb once every 3 months. I don't know what the rules are. Who knows what the rules are?
Mooch and F-bomb. We're talking about.
Well, people always say to me, they're like, Mooch, can you swear on your on the show? I said, listen, all I ever ask is if you're gonna swear, just swear with passion. Like, I meant that. I'm like, I really meant that. Like, if you're gonna swear with passion. But like, certain people will throw an F-bomb out there just because they're like, I don't know. Just, why not?
Well, I wanted to go live, but YouTube went down because I wanted to talk about that Windows article where Daniel Rubino wrote the whole thing about how we don't need consoles anymore. And he's, oh my God, dude, I was about to, YouTube saved his ass, but I'm going to cook him later.
Yeah.
But that article, I was like, you got to be kidding me. Windows Phone Central, please.
Yes.
You didn't learn your lesson by taking phone out of your name, and now you're talking about consoles going on. But that I was going to go. But then YouTube went down, so I didn't do it.
YouTube was down, yes.
Yeah, and then today, I was gonna, because I was Starfield with Sky. Like, it's just incredible how this Bluepoint stuff just completely. You go on the internet, man, it's derailing. They got Herman Holtz, like, they roasting them.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they really are.
I feel like Windows Central is to Microsoft what Prince Andrew is to Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh,
seriously.
Oh man. Phil, comment.
So,
Phil has something to say right there.
Shout out to the great WoolleyGamer. Wooly, I appreciate you being here too as well, buddy. And I want to let Jez actually, before I go to Wooly, Jez,
Monday nights,
let everybody know
at 8 p.m. and Jez 7780 on YouTube.
I'm looking forward to your commentary on the Windows Central article. I saw that article.
I think PlayStation today was rough, man.
If you look at the topics I sent you guys, that was one of the topics. But I got to be honest with you, it's 3 hours. I'm lucky me. I get to get up at 6 a.m. So I want to say shout out to the great Jez 7780 guys. Go over and follow him.
Sorry I was late. I had to do last minute family thing.
No, buddy, listen, life.
I'm glad I came on with the fire.
Life gets in the way, buddy, and I'm glad you can make it here. I appreciate it with everything that's going on. You're doing me a favor in the audience.
You and Wooly. Good talking to Wooly again, man.
Absolutely.
Yo, Jez, man. I love you, bro.
We got to talk on a Monday night. You free on Monday nights? We get both of you guys on.
That would be great.
I'm free Monday night, bro. Let's do it.
There it is. The marriage made in heaven here on CrossFire, folks. You heard it here first.
There's no tea fights at the grindhouse with Wooly, man. We're cooking. It's a chef and there's two chefs.
Oh my God! Yo, shout out to
making, bro.
Shout out to Firefighter Alf. Thanks, Alf. I appreciate you being here, buddy. It was a great show. Honestly, like I say, a couple of folks couldn't make it tonight, but the guys that were on here, man, they held their own. What a fantastic show. Wooly, thanks for being here, buddy. You were here from minute one tonight, holding it down. Mad good discussions with you as always. Please.
We held down the fort quite well, didn't we, Mooch?
We really did, man. Honestly, the show 3 hours and we nailed it. I
didn't even get to say my piece on the PS6. Shocking.
But that's okay. Right. Well, it's okay. I will listen. I'm making a note as we speak. I'm making a note. Believe me, the PS6 is going to be a topic for the next 3 years, Wooly. You're fine. You're fine.
We don't care about it being
delayed. We don't care. That's all I was going to say. Is literally
exactly. That's all you need to say.
Just remember, you had Lawsmore is dead saying it's Infinity Cache. You had others saying it's RDNA 1.5. They were all wrong, right? You had 30% faster rasterization thanks to the cache scrubbers and the higher clock speeds, which have a monumental impact on the performance. Far more so than people realize that, and these things aren't stated on paper. These things aren't measured on paper. So all I can say is just wait for the product, guys. It's gonna deliver. Think of all the revisions they've been doing with the PS5, the advanced cooling, the minimization of copper to save money. They've been preparing for the PS6 through the PS5 and the PS5 Pro.
That's true.
So we have nothing to worry about. That's all I was going to say.
No, that's a great way to put it, honestly. And you're not lying. A lot of the stuff that we have right now that we're enjoying with maybe some people call it beta testing, whatever you want to call it, but the PS5 Pro, and we're doing PSSR 1, soon to see 2.0, I think is going to I would think they would want to release it before we run into marathon, but we'll see what happens. But Wooly, great to have you here as well. And I want to make sure I caught everybody here that I did invite, because we just had an outstanding show tonight. And honestly, you guys all stepped up. Go ahead.
Have you seen that, Jez, in the chat by Glinser? Jaws, Jez and Wooly show, mate. I think he's onto something.
Jaws. That's good, man.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
What? You just created something beautiful there, mate.
There you go. Glimpse of the marketing man.
I like it.
I can make a song for that. Don't worry.
Jaws. I love it. I really do. It's great, actually. Shout out also to the great David Faulkner who stopped by. He's in the middle of his workday and he spent time with us. So shout out to David. I appreciate you guys filling.
Can I plug him, bro?
Go ahead.
Can I just give David Faulkner a plug? Sorry, that sounded so wrong. Pause. Everybody. David Faulkner, he's a long-standing friend of mine. He was originally on my show back in the day when I had one, and he is an absolute source. He's a source. Oh, mate, me too. He's a source of just phenomenal insight because he's of his work, of his job, of his contacts. Yet he's extremely humble and discreet about it because he doesn't. He not only refuses to blow a trumpet, but also he would probably lose his job if he did, right? Because he's that high up, and in what he does, he's that brilliant at what he does. So give David Faulkner a follow on Twitter. It's Falky87. Follow my boy Folky. He's a legend.
Please do go over and check out David. He's fantastic. I call him the community's accountant. That's what his name is here, and that's what he'll always be known as. The great David Faulkner was with us. Guys, please do take a second, hit that like button on the way out. We still have 161 people here. I appreciate it. I know that news broke late today, and I know you guys are all gaming like crazy, and it's the weekend, so I'm very excited to start gaming myself. But I will say this, guys. We'll be back next Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget, we're streaming over on Saturday morning, bright and early. We're going to be over there on twitch.tv. It's M00CHTV, same as it is here, same as it is over on X, Twitter, however you want to call it. And then we'll be back on Monday night over on Twitch as well. I will take that voting into consideration. You guys are saying Resident Evil. I know we will be doing a full marathon run starting next Thursday all the way through the weekend, so you're not going to want to miss that. Go over and check us out over there. Give me a follow. Believe me, I see when you guys follow. Even if I'm not live, it shows up on the phone. It makes my day. Really, same thing here on this channel. I appreciate every single one of you guys with the likes and the subscriptions and follows. We'll see you next Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Pardon me, 7 p.m. Eastern time here, and it'll be 10 a.m. over on twitch.tv on Saturday morning. Peace out and good night, everybody. Go play some games.